Get ready, Staten Island. It's time to celebrate 5 years of Ferry Hawks baseball.
Tuesday, May 19th at 10:30 a.m., it's morning baseball. Wednesday, May 20th at 6:30 p.m., have a pawsome time at Bark in the Park. Thursday, May 21st at 6:30, it's Pride Night with $5 Bud or Bud Light draft beer. Individual game tickets start at just $12.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
Sid and Friends in the morning.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
A deal reached to end the Long Island Railroad strike. After 3 days of workers on the picket lines, their unions and the MTA are now working on a plan to get the trains running again. Good evening to you. I'm Christine Johnson. Now, so far, both sides are not releasing details of the agreement. But Governor Hochul says that it won't increase taxes or lead to a fare hike. Despite the strike coming to an end, LIRR commuters can expect to see another tough commute in the morning. And that is because service is set to resume in phases beginning at noontime.
A major relief for roughly 300,000 commuters that use and rely on the LIRR. It's been a rough 3 days for them commuting into the city and back home or even to work, especially today. And while this is good news for them, it's going to take some time to get these trains back on track. Now, Long Island Railroad service will be restored by noon at the following 4 branches: Port Washington branch, Huntington branch, Ronkonkoma branch, and the Babylon branch. Then full service at all branches will resume at 4 p.m., just in time for the evening commute and for the Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. The deal was announced just before 9 p.m. after countless hours of negotiations over the weekend, and 5 unions representing rail workers called a strike at 12:01 on Saturday morning as a push for fair wages that kept up with inflation. The move paralyzing the nation's largest commuter rail system.
Breaking news out of San Diego. We're learning more about a deadly shooting at an Islamic center. 3 men were killed this morning, and the murders are being investigated as a hate crime. Among the victims was a mosque security guard. Investigators say the 2 shooters were teenagers and found dead inside a vehicle not far from the scene. Police believe they took their own lives. The mother of one of the teens had contacted police a few hours before the shootings.
She believed her son was suicidal, and she began to share information that several of her weapons were missing. Her vehicle was missing, in addition to her son. This is every community's worst nightmare. I want to give you some preliminary information to put a lot of minds at ease. There is no further threat. Both suspects in this case are deceased. All of the kids are safe. Our hearts go out to the families that are in this moment being notified of what has happened to their loved ones. We have 3 confirmed adults that are deceased at the Islamic Center.
Okay, guys, breaking news out of San Diego. There was a shooting today at the Islamic Center of San Diego. So here's what we know. Security guard has been killed, 3 dead total, 2 teen suspects. Yeah, it was a scary situation. From what I understand, there's a school inside, so there were little children. Horrible all around. Eyewitnesses say they heard multiple gunshots coming from inside the building. But here's what people need to know about this mosque. The Islamic Center of San Diego has had a controversial reputation in the community for years because of its ties to 2 9/11 hijackers. Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mekdar were known to have attended the Islamic Center of San Diego while living in San Diego before the attacks. They also, learned how to fly planes in Miramar. And more recently, the mosque's imam, Taha Hassan, he became a controversial figure in the community himself. He was initially brought into San Diego for his interfaith efforts to help bridge relationships between the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian communities. But after October 7th, major outrage after making comments that resistance is justified when people are occupied, comments many people viewed as defending or rationalizing Hamas. He has spewed a lot of anti-Israel rhetoric from his pulpit. His wife also facing controversy after October 7th, after she posted an image depicting a Star of David beheading babies, a post that sparked outrage in the Jewish community. The mosque has also frequently held events with CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And as many of you know, CAIR was named in 2008 as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest Hamas terror financing case in U.S. history, the Holy Land Foundation. CAIR has denied wrongdoing, was never charged with a crime, but the organization's history and ties have remained a source of controversy for years.
A high-stakes political week for President Trump, with primary elections that could indicate the future of the Republican Party. A key test of Trump's power coming up in Kentucky. And over the weekend, Trump helping to end the career of Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, who was one of a handful of GOP senators that voted to convict the then former president in the wake of the January 6th riot. Trump posting, "It's nice to see that his political career is over." Cassidy conceding on Saturday.
Sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. But you don't pout, you don't whine, you don't claim the election was stolen, you don't find a reason why.
On Meet the Press, Trump ally Lindsey Graham warning that Republicans who oppose Trump will lose their elections.
There's no room in this party to destroy his agenda.
Graham also predicting the defeat of Republican Thomas Massie in Kentucky, a conservative incumbent congressman who's had a contentious relationship with Trump, facing another bellwether election on Tuesday.
This is a fight worth winning. It's a national referendum.
Trump hand-picking his opponent.
I want to just give me somebody with a warm body to beat Massie.
And railing against him online. Massie has angered Trump with his outspoken push for the release of the Epstein files, and he's criticized Trump's policies, including the war with Iran.
And I've tried to keep us from getting bogged down like we did in Afghanistan and Iraq for 2 decades.
The war becoming a central political issue for Trump, with the price of gas and other goods rising as the stalemate in the Gulf continues. Republicans promising that when the conflict ends, prices will drop.
We are just hoping and praying that the prices come back down.
But Democrats argue voters will express their frustration at the ballot box.
I think the Democrats will win back the House because there's so much momentum.
And on Meet the Press this weekend, Senator Graham encouraged the president to consider resuming military strikes in Iran to break the stalemate in negotiations. Now Axios reporting that President Trump is expected to gather his national security team together in the Situation Room tomorrow to discuss potential military options.
I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. I'm in the Oval Office, and we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country. His name is Thomas Massie. He's from Kentucky. I hope you're going to put him out of business tomorrow. He is so bad. Got an election coming up. He's running against a great guy, a great patriot, Ed Gilrain. He's fantastic. But forget that. Massie's the worst congressman in the history of our country, always voting against Republicans and good values. So get rid of Thomas Massie.
Here's the guy I want to see, and I don't know if his wife would let him, and I've told him this already, and KT McFarland was on his show the other day, and she said this too, if you know KT, right? Yeah. She used to work for Trump and all of that, right? Sid Rosenberg, the mayor of New York City. Why not? My buddy Sid for freaking mayor. Now, I know I've talked to Sid about that. His wife is not crazy about him being the mayor, but there you go.
Hey, next time you talk to Sid, make sure you tell him you brought it up on our podcast.
I will.
Let me tell you something about Sid. You know, I have to say, Joe, every once in a while I get a little tired of him because he talks about himself all the time, but that's the way anybody does. We all do it. So I don't hold it against him. He would make head and shoulders over what we have today. It would be a complete turnaround, and it would be so refreshing to get an ordinary guy in there and to try to do the job. They couldn't go with Curtis Sliwa. He ran a bad campaign. I backed Curtis all the way. But Sid's I'm going to tell you know something. The fact that you mentioned Sid, Sid's a polarizing figure to a certain extent. You're going to get people to say, "Oh, what a bunch of come on." Yeah, but for the most part, he loves Israel. He's going to do the right thing for New York. He sees the crime getting out of control. He's going to do his due diligence. He would do a great job as mayor. I really believe that.
Look, I think, Sid, here's what you ought to do. Watch what happens in Los Angeles. And if Spencer Pratt wins the mayor's race in Los Angeles, I want to see Sid Rosenberg hire the same social media guys and the same social media team that Spencer Pratt is using, and then go work for Sid Rosenberg, and then you run for mayor.
My friend Rios out in New Jersey yesterday sent me some guy who's got like 2.2 million followers. 2.2 million on some podcast he does where he hates on Trump and Republicans. And the guy literally played my interview with Trump and just took me apart and made all these sexual claims about me and the president and all that stuff. So all day, every day, in some basement somewhere or some studio somewhere, they're talking about Sid Rosenberg, and most of the stuff is negative. But Benigno, a dear friend of mine, an all-time sports legend, doing this Ralph Romeo. You know this guy? Noam, you know him, right?
I know who he is, yeah.
I think he was friends with Frank Morano or on Morano's show years ago.
That's how I know who he is. He sometimes would be here in the middle of the night when I came in.
Supposedly, Benigno does his podcast all the time, and he does Joe's. I don't know where Ralph is out of. I don't know. But I've talked to Ralph and his wife. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah, they're nice people.
Very nice. So for some reason, 48 minutes into this podcast yesterday, well, you got to think Benigno is talking about the Knicks, right? Knicks Cavaliers game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Later on tonight, the Knickerbockers have not made the NBA Finals since 1999, of course. It's been 27 years that Patrick Ewing, Latrell Sprewell, Marcus Camby, Jeff Van Gundy team that lost to the San Antonio Spurs, who ironically...
What a disgrace.
Yes. Won a road game in Oklahoma City last night. And those Ewing teams went to the NBA Finals twice. They lost to the Spurs in 99. They lost to the Rockets in 94. The 94 loss, I think, was more known for the O.J. Simpson white Bronco chase. That's ironic, too, when you consider that Mark Furman died yesterday at the age of 74 years old. So the Knicks have not made the NBA Finals since 1999. You would think that's all that Benigno and Romeo would talk about. Maybe the resurgent New York Mets, who scored 16 runs last night. They've won 6 out of 7. And I guess they did all that for about 47 minutes. But then the Benigno out of nowhere just doing, I'd like to see my friend Sid Rosenberg run for mayor. And that was on the heels, of course, of K.T. McFarland, one of the most respected people in D.C., working for 4 presidents in her lifetime, most recently President Trump, big star on Fox News, and on our show every Friday, you heard what she said last week. So the endorsement list continues to grow and grow. Trump's, they're in. A whole bunch of other folks. Blakeman, he's in. So I'm not really taking it all that seriously. I know that City and State, you know that publication, Noam?
Of course, yeah.
It's a big deal in the city, I guess, right? I don't know. Who writes for them? Cuomo does. And any like famous writers or...
I think, people do guest columns and that type of thing for
right.
them.
Right. I think I've even seen Anthony D'Esposito write for them on the other side.
Right. Yeah.
So they did some story last week on potential mayor candidates because they're already predicting that Mamdani's going to win again, which I will do everything in my power to stop. Not only do I want Mamdani not to win again, I want to get this guy arrested or something. I don't know. I hate the guy. Every day I hate Mamdani even more. If you're uncomfortable with that, you don't like that word, tough.
Because let's be honest.
Thank you, Joe. Every day I hate him even more. So this City and State came out with some article last week about potential candidates for the 29 mayor's race. And they mentioned a whole bunch of Democrats, only 3 Republicans, because I guess only 2 have said they're going to run so far. One is John Schell. I don't even know if John Schell is going to run as a Republican. I think he's running as an independent, former NYPD chief of department. The other, Curtis, which is the definition of insanity. What is the actual definition of insanity? Do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. When you get a combined 22% of the vote in 2 elections, including an all-time low 7% in the last election, you've got to have your head examined to do it again. But worse than that, worse than Curtis, you'd have to have your head examined to vote for this guy or give this guy any money. So they mentioned Curtis, they mentioned Shell, and then they mentioned potty mouth radio host. I was the only one who got a nice little adjective, potty mouth. And that was me. But I've not discussed on any real serious terms this mayor run. I mean, I've got people that have offered me money, all kinds of stuff. You know, I don't talk about all of it on the air. I don't. But it's not really a joke at this point. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's really not. And there are some very, very influential people in New York and in Washington, D.C., who think it's a good idea. Now, I don't, because I'm on the heels of a brand new deal here at WABC. I'm hoping it's sooner than later. And I'd like to spend a lot of time here continuing to rule New York radio, make a lot of money. And I don't want to give that up, like Stephen A. Smith says, to fight with the city council and legislators in Albany, and hopefully it'll be Bruce Blakeman, so the governor and I will have a nice relationship. I don't want all that, plus drag my family through the mud, because whoever runs against me will have no real way of beating me in a debate when it comes to policy, so they'll look for anything in my past that'll make me and my wife and my kids miserable. I'm aware of all this, trust me. I'm aware of all of it. So there's a lot of cons, but there's pros too, and the pro is I just can't sit back and watch this anymore. I know Michael Rappaport feels the same way. He may run. I don't really care who runs. If I decide to run, I'm going to win. At least the Republican nomination, I'm going to win. I can't tell you I'm going to beat Mamdani or a Democrat, but if I decide to run, I will win. Sliwa's not beating me. No one's beating me. But I have to really think about this, you know?
It's a miserable job. Why would you want to do it? You'd be fighting with how many Republicans? 51 city council members?
I know that. Well, you know why I want to do that? No, be only 46. There are 5 Republicans.
Right, okay, right.
Because the city, I love this city. I came back here. I'm the only idiot. While I-95 South was packed with cars driving to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Boca, Tampa, you name it, I was the guy going north. Now, certainly the job opportunity, thanks to Chad Lopez, just over a decade ago at WABC, made that decision easy. I get that. But I do love this city. I think you know that. And it's killing me watching what's going on here. It's just killing me. And everybody I know is sad. Everybody I know is sad. Even after spending time at the beach last weekend and, going to a ball game, doing all these fun things, the truth is, especially during the week, during work hours, a lot of the people that I associate myself with, friends and family and good New Yorkers, are sad. So they need help. So every now and then you have to sacrifice, but the sacrifice can't be where Danielle, Ava, and Gabe have to sacrifice. So that's the decision I've got to make. But I am listening to New Yorkers say, can't do this anymore. This is terrible. This is terrible on a lot of levels, not just Judaism, anti-Semitism. Even I get tired of that every now and then. Not often, but every now and then. There's a lot of other issues with this mayor that is making life in this city unbearable. So that's why I would do it, Noam, is because somebody's got to do it. And if everybody had that same mindset, which is you can't win, it's a miserable job, you're going to fight with the city council, you're going to fight with the mayor. Again, hopefully Blakeman wins, so Hochul's not an issue. You're going to fight with the legislators up in Albany, then no decent candidate will ever run. And you may as well just let these cities turn to garbage, which they are already. I mean, New York we are so close to garbage. Los Angeles is already garbage. Chicago is already garbage. Atlanta is already garbage. Portland, Seattle. Want me to keep going? So someone's got to do it, no?
Well, you get to live in Gracie Mansion, rent-free.
Right.
That's pretty nice.
It's a nice place.
I'm sick and tired of it.
You get $258,000 a year. That's a salary.
Okay. Not great. Look, I'd like to see somebody who's got millions and millions of dollars in the bank. John Catsimatidis tried it once. Guy like Bill Ackman, maybe a guy like Ken Griffin. They've got millions in the bank. They can afford to make $250,000 a year for 4 years or 8 years. I really can't. So the truth is, there's a lot of reasons why I can't do it more than I can. But my civil spirit and my love for this city and this state is telling me at least consider it. Well, how about that, no? At least consider it.
Now, I know all along the person that's really standing in the way is your wife. Is she thinking about it now?
Nope.
Okay.
Hasn't bent even a little. Not even a little. same line I hear all the time, which is, oh, you can run, but you better win because you're going to need a place to live. So Gracie Mansion will be nice. If not, start looking for apartments. And she's not kidding.
That's a great response, actually.
Yeah.
You better win.
Yeah, you better win.
Because
you'll need a place to live.
That's so perfect.
I know. She's pretty good, D.
And she's smart, too, because she's right.
Oh, she's 100% right. There's really many more cons than pros, but I can't let Curtis and the rest of these people run again. It's embarrassing. It's silly. No one's taking it seriously. And I'd rather at least give Mamdani a scare, make him work for it, than just hand it over to Mamdani another 4 years. And if, God forbid, because it could happen, I don't think it will, and nobody loves Bruce Blakeman more than me. We're brothers. Lou, you can tell everybody how close me and Bruce are. A lot of people on this station are close with Bruce, not even close.
Crystal clear.
So I want him to win. He's got a shot. But if Kathy Hochul wins and she's still the favorite here, we're dead. I mean, seriously, folks, we're dead. So do we just let it happen?
Yeah, the issue is you're sitting here, you're getting frustrated watching all the
I
ineptitude
really am.
go on.
Frustrated and sad, and there's too many people, as Lou knows, because him and I are like brothers. We're so close, and we talk every day starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. You don't even know half the names of the people that have reached out to me and said, you need to do this. Much bigger people than anyone in the Republican Party has had endorse them in this city over the last maybe 4 or 5 mayor races. That's how big they are, Noam. And they're coming every day.
Not to mention all the law enforcement that you run into.
I'll get every police union, every one of them. Vin Valalong with the sergeants, Scotty Monroe with the detectives. I'll get every police union. Now, look, Jessica Tisch may run, but I don't see Jessica running as a Republican. Julie Menon, the Speaker of the City Council, she said last week she's not running. That means she is. But I don't see her running as a Republican. I don't know.
No, she's going to run as a Democrat.
Right, and Jess will probably run, if she does, as an independent, I would imagine. So what Republicans you have left? Shell will be an independent. Curtis will be a Republican. I'll kill him. That won't even be close. So what's left?
Well, there's probably somebody we just don't know about yet.
Yeah, like who?
I don't know.
Michael Rappaport will be an independent. Who? You know everybody who lives in New York. Who's going to pop up all of a sudden as a Republican, and the people are going to love him?
I mean, nobody comes to mind right
nobody.
now. Yeah.
There is nobody. There's nobody. You're going to get some CEO that may be a Republican that nobody knows? There's nobody. Democrats, sure. A lot of famous Democrats living in New York. Who knows? A celebrity, a business owner, a CEO, any one of those people could be formidable. There's no Republicans here. You'll know about them. You'd know about them. Greg Kelly, he's talked about it. He won't do it if I do it. He'd be stupid if he did. And he's not stupid. He's a great guy and a great radio host, but he ain't beat me. So what are we down to here, Noam?
Yeah, I can't. It's hard for me to think of anybody.
That's why I continue to ponder this. So anyway, that's not the big story today. The big story today is primary day. 6 states up for grabs. You know who they are. Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. But the bullseye is on Kentucky. And I got to tell you this. I am rooting for a guy named Ed Gilrain in the state of Kentucky as much as I'm rooting for the Knicks to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 1 tonight of the Eastern Conference Finals. And you guys know I'm not kidding, because clearly, after what I did with the Mets and the Yankees, sports takes a back seat to politics for me. And I do have Mike Breen on today, the Hall of Fame voice of the New York Knicks. This is a big get. You guys realize that Mike can't do WFAN because they've got a policy, ESPN. They don't allow their talent to go on WFAN because ESPN and WFAN compete in the mornings. Now, I think if Mike Frances or Chris Russo was still there, Breen would probably waive that. But at this point, talents like Stephen A. Smith, ESPN, Mike Breen, ESPN, Chris Russo, ESPN, they only come on my show. Think about that, Noam. I get the biggest sports names in the city on this show, and we're a politics show. So we've got Mike Breen coming on later on this morning, which is huge. Knicks and Cavs, game 1 tonight. But I want Ed Gilrain to win that race in Kentucky even more than the Knicks, because that's how much I despise Thomas Massie. I am so sick and tired of these Republicans who can't stand President Trump. For whatever reason they've got, I don't know what it is, and I don't care. I can't stand Republicans acting treasonous and looking to stab our president in the back. It's not like the Jeffrey Epstein story just came about a couple of months ago. That's been out there for years. Even when Joe Biden was president. You guys remember Thomas Massie yelling and screaming 5 or 6 years ago about Jeffrey Epstein? Anybody? No, right? No. But now, because they hate Trump, whether it's Epstein or Iran, they look for whatever they can find to pick on Trump. And we don't want them. I'm sick of all of them. Kentucky, specifically, is a rotten state for Republicans. Mitch McConnell reigns out of Kentucky. Rand Paul, huge jerk-off, he's out of Kentucky. And the most, I believe, the least likable of all, I know for sure that President Trump dislikes this guy the most, Thomas Massie, running today in Kentucky. I did catch up with the great Brian Kilmeade, who follows me each and every morning at 10 o'clock here on 77 WABC. He's on TV right now as we're speaking on Fox and Friends, and he also does that great show, One Nation, 10 p.m. Sunday night. I will not be on this Sunday night. I'll be on next Sunday night. So if you're going to be away for Memorial Day weekend, you're not going to miss me. I'll be on next Sunday night. But I did catch up with Kilmeade specifically about Thomas Massie in Kentucky early this morning. This is cut number 1, Lewis, and here's what BK had to say.
I find him insincere. You know, there's these people that go into Congress, and the way I think you should do it, Sid, is this. You go in there, you're a conservative, you're a liberal, right? And then you have a president that's in your party. You go in there and you say, this is what I believe, and this is how to work it out, and then you go into a committee and you try to do the best you can, and you try to get your points across. But in the end, you got to get something done. Right? Sometimes you got to kill something, and that's getting something done. But other times you got to work with them. I look at Chip Roy. Chip Roy goes every day. He's fighting for a strong border, and he does all these things. But then he says, okay, what's possible? I'm in the minority. What's possible? I'm in the majority, but I only got a 3-seat advantage. And then in the end, he goes, okay, this is the best I can do. Let's get it done. Tom Massie, just the opposite. Rand Paul, just the opposite. They sit there and they belong in a think tank where they come out and they debate things and they write a position paper. But they don't look to get anything done. But what's worse about Tom Massie, Sid, is Tom Massie became a guy with an agenda, which was stop Trump, is to do everything he could to get in Trump's way. So instead of saying, well, I'm a libertarian, I'm different from a conservative, you got to understand, now all of a sudden I am really into the Epstein files. I got to get to the bottom of it. And I'm going to combine with another liberal out in California who believes nothing that I believe because he also doesn't like Trump. And they go ahead and have this victims, and they get the victims together, and they say, we're going to fight for you. Tom Massie couldn't care less about the Epstein files while Joe Biden was in office, or Trump won his first office. Like, that's when Epstein was front and center, too. Nobody cared. But when it looks like Trump's name was going to be a problem, and now it isn't, that's why he goes to bat every day. So that's why this guy just became an enemy. And you vote against a big, beautiful bill as a conservative. You are an idiot. You are just an idiot, giving taxpayer dollars and tax breaks back to working families and everything that was involved with that. So it's just because he's out there trying to destroy Trump. And that's why Trump's putting a lot of resources to get rid of him. But look at the guy they're replacing him with. If he could win, this is another Navy SEAL you put in there, fighting for a conservative state like Kentucky. The president wins it by 20 points. If you're Tom Massie and you're representing the people of Kentucky, why is it in your interest to be anti-Trump? Because your state isn't.
Ed Gilrain is that Navy SEAL that's running against Massie today, so we got to beat him. We got to beat Thomas Massie today. We got great news a couple days ago when another louse, another anti-Trump, anti-American jerk, Bill Cassidy, lost in the state of Louisiana. That was great. We played that in the open. Bill Cassidy, I'm not claiming somebody cheated, and the idiots in the audience were clapping and hooting and hollering. Truth is, Bill, no one cares. You're done. Thank God your career is over. So Cassidy is out. And we want to see the same thing happen to Thomas Massey in Kentucky today. I also know that President Trump is endorsing big Burt Jones, not the same Burt Jones who for many years played quarterback for the Baltimore Colts. Those great games against Dan Pastorini and the Houston Oilers and Terry Bradshaw and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Burt Jones running for governor in the great state of Georgia. Again, the 6 states in play today as we start the midterms, right? We're starting the midterms today. Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. Actually, we started the midterms a couple of weeks ago when President Trump had that amazing night in the great state of Indiana. You may remember 5 senators who went against President Trump's redistricting policy in Indiana all got beat that night. So Trump had a big night in Indiana a couple of weeks ago. We saw Bill Cassidy lose in Louisiana a couple of days ago. And now hopefully Thomas Massey in Kentucky is the next to go. What else we got here today, Noam, in terms of this 6-state primary?
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I thought my microphone was on. Galrain, this latest poll shows that he was behind like 7-8 points in Kentucky to Massey, and all through April. And then the president really put his thumb on the scale in the last couple of weeks. And the latest poll that came out just a couple of days ago showed Massey up by just 1 point. So essentially a dead even race when we go into this thing tonight. So everything points to the fact that Galrain will likely win this thing because, Massey's been on the ballot 7-8 times now already.
He's actually been serving in Kentucky Congress for 14 years.
Yeah, so there you go. So you have that maybe going for him, too. They want a fresh face. And the fact that President Trump's so involved in this thing that could pull him, drag him across the finish line.
All right, give me the, that's your, I guess, your national stuff, primary day in 6 states. But the big news here, something we covered big time yesterday, we got Bruce Blakeman on very early with that exclusive interview about Kathy Hochul and the Long Island Railroad strike. 3 days, it's over. The unions and the MTA have agreed. So today, the folks on Long Island and Nassau and Suffolk County will be able to get back on the railroad, but it's not that easy. They're going to do it in phases. It doesn't start until noon. So it doesn't sound like today will be a particularly good travel day. But the good news is the strike is over. What is the latest with that?
So, you can't, this was 9 o'clock last night. They came out, the unions. You had the MTA chair, Jana Lieber. You had Governor Hochul there outside MTA headquarters saying that a deal had been done. They haven't released the details because they want the union members to look at it first. But essentially, it's over. So what it means for LIRR riders, there's no service this morning. There'll be hourly service starting at noon. And then they say by the afternoon rush, because it takes a while to get all the trains back into place and get people to work, that the evening rush home will be a normal evening rush home, that everything will be full service for the LIRR.
All right, that's good news for 300,000 people out on Long Island trying to get to work. So 2 major stories, the 6 primaries going on today across the country. The Long Island Railroad, that strike is over. Today will still be rough, but by tomorrow it should be back to normal. That's the good news. And, of course, this mosque story out in San Diego, that's a rough one. I'm just waiting for somebody here in New York to put my name in some column. What do you expect when you got people like Sid Rosenberg on WABC calling the mayor a jihadist and a cockroach? Please, I'm begging you. That'll happen. You know that, Noam, right? That'll happen.
They'll put your bald head in the middle of one of those packages. Right,
like the Today Show does that with me and Good Morning America. They'll find a way to blame me, my rhetoric, which is ridiculous because what happened out there is tragic. And I never, ever encourage any violence. I don't. These are innocent people in a mosque. Well, some of them. If you heard Stella Escobedo's piece, Stella's a big-time television star. She was at OAN for many years. She's part of my lady group. You know that, Noam. I've got Siggy Flicker. I've got Michelle Lubin-Terrace from Jexit. I've got Bridget Gabriel, even Laura Loomer. But Stella's one of my better friends, and she did a whole piece on this mosque. It's the biggest mosque in San Diego. but it has been wrapped over the years with a tremendous amount of controversy. That has nothing to do with innocent people being gunned down by what looked like a couple of kids, 17 and 19, but I think like white supremacists or something. I don't know. These were not good kids. And one of the mothers freaked out because she noticed a bunch of her weapons in her car was missing. And it turned out that, yes, much like Adam Lanza in Connecticut, her son took it and went and committed this vile, horrible act and murdered innocent people. But a lot of these stories do have context, and I do think that Stella Escobedo provided that when she added what this mosque was all about on her report on Instagram last night. So let's play that, Louis. Stella Escobedo on what this mosque has stood for the last couple of years.
Okay, guys, breaking news out of San Diego. There was a shooting today at the Islamic Center of San Diego. So here's what we know. Security guard has been killed. 3 dead total. 2 teen suspects. Yeah, it was a scary situation. From what I understand, there's a school inside, so there were little children. Horrible all around. Eyewitnesses say they heard multiple gunshots coming from inside the building. But here's what people need to know about this mosque. The Islamic Center of San Diego has had a controversial reputation in the community for years because of its ties to 2 9/11 hijackers. Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mekdar were known to have attended the Islamic Center of San Diego while living in San Diego before the attacks. They also, learned how to fly planes in Miramar. And more recently, the mosque's imam, Taha Hassan, he became a controversial figure in the community himself. He was initially brought into San Diego for his interfaith efforts to help bridge relationships between the Muslim, Jewish, and Christian communities. But after October 7th, major outrage after making comments that resistance is justified when people are occupied, comments many people viewed as defending or rationalizing Hamas. He has spewed a lot of anti-Israel rhetoric from his pulpit. His wife also facing controversy after October 7th, after she posted an image depicting a Star of David beheading babies, a post that sparked outrage in the Jewish community. The mosque has also frequently held events with CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. And as many of you know, CARE was named in 2008 as an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest Hamas terror financing case in U.S. history, the Holy Land Foundation. CARE has denied wrongdoing, was never charged with a crime, but the organization's history and ties have remained a source of controversy for years.
CARE has also sent at least 3 letters. I believe the New York chapter of CARE, maybe even the headquarters, I don't know. At least 3 letters over the last year to John Catsimatidis begging John to fire me. So they're not a big fan of mine. I'm not a big fan of theirs. That's Stella adding some context to this story, which is a tragic story. No other way to put it. Innocent people murdered in San Diego. My heart goes out to the victims and friends of those families. Why do I keep seeing these 3 ugly girls? They're ugly on the inside. They're ugly on the outside. I know the blonde one thinks she's hot stuff. She's not. That are posing outside of a courtroom yesterday all day in support of Luigi Mangione. I mean, you would think that 3 of them were like Playboy models. Not that it matters. The fact that there are young people out there, young, impressionable people out there that really do consider this guy a hero. Now, they may be lying, right? Because, hey, they're on TV. These 3 girls are on TV. They're all over Instagram. They're getting all this play. And they may be doing all of this just for that. But if, God forbid, they really believe the nonsense they're trying to sell, that Brian Thompson, talking about the mosque, was a terrorist, and that his kids, his 2 teenage kids, are better off with him dead than alive, and Luigi Mangione's a hero, if, God forbid, there's any truth to that, then all the issues we've got in the country and the world today are even worse than we thought they were, and we knew they were bad. What is the latest with Mangione?
Well, I think both of those things probably, by the way, are true, that these women probably believe that he's a hero for what he did, but they're also trying to juice their numbers on their social media sites, because every time he makes a court appearance, they're outside, they're shooting video, and then, of course, seconds later it's up, and we all see it, right? I mean, all of it goes viral. So, and then, yesterday they made some of the stuff that was found in Mangione's backpack when he was arrested at that McDonald's in Pennsylvania permissible. Others won't be seen by the jury. But there's enough here in this case already to put this guy away for the rest of his life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why this idea that even if the evidence that they picked up at that McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, even if you really can't use it, it doesn't matter. This guy's dead meat. And these girls can have a good time writing letters and sending him maybe naked videos. I don't know what these idiots do. But it is very, very sad when you've got an innocent man gunned down on the streets of New York, and the coward who shot him in the back, somehow is elevated to hero status. The country's in dire shape when that's the case. All right, big guest list today. I've got a big night coming up tonight. I do this every year. It's called Ateret Kohanim. Familiar with these people, no?
I am not, no.
Oh, Moti Don and Dan Laurie. This is the organization that two local heroes, Dov and Shani Heiken, run. And what they do is, Noam, is they buy land back from the Arabs in the old city of Jerusalem, which is owned by a lot of Arabs. They buy it back and sell it to Jewish people. So Jewish people are living there. Arafat, years and years ago, had this huge palatial mansion there. So that's their business. They go about buying back the land and making sure that Jewish people end up living in the old city, which, as you know, Noam, is gorgeous, in Jerusalem. Again, the name of their organization is Ateret Kohanim. They've got a huge dinner every year at a gorgeous, swanky place in Hewlett, which I attend, and I usually get honored. Me and Danielle got honored a couple of years ago. They got something for me every year. Dov Heiken is very, very sweet. So I'm back there later on tonight. So we will talk to Shoni Heiken coming up in a couple of minutes about that big event. Also, Janine Driscoll is on her way in. She's driving in, and she is running for that Congress seat on Long Island, which Anthony D'Esposito had. D'Esposito, of course, lost to Laura Gillum the last time around. So now Janine Driscoll, who comes highly recommended by Peter King and Joe Cairo and Bruce Blankman, she's running against Gillum this time. So we'll have Janine live in studio at 7:35. At about 7:50, Uncle Bo, the great cop, and our dear friend Bo Dietl, making his regular Tuesday appearance. There's a huge rally coming up next week, May the 27th, outside the New York Times building. When I say rally, I don't do rallies. I don't do that, okay? Bullhorns and all that nonsense. But this one is different. The DOJ's involved. Big-time lawyers are involved. And it involves the mayor. This is a Stop Mamdani rally. It's outside the New York Times building coming up next Tuesday night. In fact, I'm going to be there at this one. And one of our great lawfare attorneys, Brooke Goldstein, you know Brooke, you know him. She's going to be here at 8:45 this morning. How about this guest at 9:15? We played his music a lot yesterday. It turns out that we kind of went back and forth on Twitter for a couple of days, corresponded with each other, and now he's coming on today. He happens to be Mr. Five for Fighting. We love their songs, Five for Fighting. John Ondrasik, who loves President Trump, loves this country, very pro-Israel, actually changed the words of his big hit Superman with a song he did with a guy named Elon, a big Israeli star, to depict what happened on October the 7th. John Ondrasik, Five for Fighting, will be on our program coming up later on today. And then again, the voice of the New York Knicks Hall of Fame voice for the NBA Finals, my dear friend of 30 years, Mike Breen.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
President Trump refers to him as Mr. Salt, and he's on this show about once a week, and he is just hilarious. He's great. He's also brilliant. He knows what's going on in Congress as well as anybody, but he's funny, and his name is Mike Lawler. So he texted me at 10:52 last night, and it's a form to fill out for Secret Service. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm asleep. I fall to bed. I go to bed about 9:30 on most weeknights because I'm up before 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking at it, and it turns out that my friend President Trump, who I just spoke to again, he's going to be here in Rockland County on Friday night. I don't even know where he's going to be. I think Mike probably knows, but we're not going to tell anybody because you psychos out there want to kill my friend. But I'll be there with the president on Friday because I filled out my Secret Service form for me and Danielle. So thank you, Mike Lawler, for sending me that last night. And I look forward to seeing President Trump somewhere in Rockland County on Friday night. Noam, you want to go?
Sure, why not?
You can.
Oh, okay. You were just setting me up to tell me that.
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
yes.
That was nice of you.
Yeah. But it's not going to stop a lot of people over the next few days from asking me, hey, do me a favor, man, can you get me? I cannot. Don't ask. I have no power. Zero.
Oh, wait, you can't say that.
No, I mean, well, yeah, when it comes to stuff like this, like I've got people already asking me for tickets for June 14th, which, of course, is Flag Day. It's also President Trump's 80th birthday. But the big deal is Dana White and UFC is holding this huge event. They're literally building a ring on the White House lawn, which will be part of our 250 celebration. And I've already had a bunch of people, I'm not kidding, ask me for tickets to that. So let me save you all a lot of aggravation. I'd love to help all of you. I would. I don't even have tickets to that yet. That
UFC event, they're only giving away like a couple
500.
hundred. Yeah,
500. So I spoke to Monica Crowley for about 30 minutes yesterday. 30 minutes. So we get along great. We have a great friendship. She doesn't have tickets, just so you know. You know, she sets up all the State Department visits. So, for example, if Zelensky's coming to town, if Putin's coming to town, if she is coming to town, that's in Monica Crowley's wheelhouse. This is not a White House event. It's not. It's Dana White and UFC. So I may have a tough time getting a ticket, but I'm sure if I text the president, I can work something out. But I can't get you guys tickets for anything. Not for the 250 celebration here or in Washington, D.C., or the UFC or Rockland County on Friday night. I just don't have that type of power. I don't. Most of the time, I'm just happy I'm getting in, if that makes sense. You know, talking about going to visit the president or the White House, I tweeted this last night, and I don't know what the exact turnout was, but you know, Noam, that last night, this radical jihadist Islam mayor of ours, well, I don't care what he says or who he hosts, he hates the Jews, and his wife hates us just as much. Last night, he hosted a dinner at Gracie Mansion for Jewish Heritage Month, celebrating Shavuot. You know that, right?
I did not know that. No.
You didn't know that?
I find it comical, but yes. No, I had not heard that.
There were I was told by a spy that there were plenty of black hats at Gracie Mansion last night. You know that rabbi I mentioned a couple of days ago out of the Satmar community? This guy Moshe Indig, that loser, he was there. And he was tweeting all night how honored he is. What kind of sick bastard. Seriously, I don't care if he's a fellow Jew. I'm so sick and tired of a lot of my fellow Jews. You guys are a bigger issue for us than even Hamas. I've been saying that longer than anybody. I was the first one to call Doug Emhoff a crappy Jew. I was the one to tell President Trump before he said it about these Democrat Jews. I can't stand them. And you get a rabbi at Gracie Mansion last night tweeting what a great time he's having and how honored he is to be standing next to a guy who wants to globalize the Intifada, who doesn't recognize Israel as a state, who sleeps with a woman who enjoyed videos of young girls being raped on the streets of Israel. This is the guy you're celebrating Shavuot with? I mean, come on. For all the issues I had with Eric Adams, and I had plenty, and to the day I die, I remain steadfast that Eric Adams was a crappy mayor. Not as bad as de Blasio, won't be as bad as this guy, but was a crappy mayor. Really bad. In fact, for 3 out of 4 years, he really screwed us. Okay? He looks a little better now because of Mamdani, but he sucked. Eric Adams sucked. But I'll tell you this, I went there during Jewish Heritage Month to see him, never had an issue with it. In that respect, okay. He did fail the Jews, I believe, after October 7th. I don't care what he says. He was MIA, missing for 15 months. I was standing in front of Columbia University with Mike Lawler and Bruce Blakeman and D'Esposito and Rappaport. This guy was on the way to Italy. I mean, he really screwed us. But in the end, certainly much better to the Jews and Israel than this creep. Could you imagine there were Jewish people, rabbis, at Gracie Mansion last night, Noam?
It is amazing to me. I wonder, though, I know not fair amount's the wrong word, but there's a section of black hatters who have always been anti-Zionist. Like, you see them at some of those Free Palestine rallies. They show up. Is that the crew who was at this thing last night?
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, this guy, Moshe, this rabbi, is a Satmar. And I ended up having a conversation with one of the members of the Satmar community a couple of days ago. They were very angry with me because I basically called out the whole community and said, okay, I stand corrected. I don't know much about that community. I really don't. I saw videos of the mayor. I thought he was inside a Satmar Sukkot. This guy said no. But I do see this rabbi, Moshe Indig, all over Twitter, time and time again, complimenting Mamdani and Hochul. And if it's just one Jew in that community, that's way too many. And he was not alone there last night. He was not alone. So I said it last night. I'll say it again. Any Jew that was at Gracie Mansion last night celebrating a Jewish holiday with this creep Mamdani is an epping disgrace. That's what you are. You're a disgrace, an embarrassment to the Jewish religion. And you need to look at all the parents of all the young girls who were raped and beheaded and all the babies that were put in ovens back on October 7th. Look in their eyes and you tell them, you know what? He's not such a bad guy. You do that. I know President Trump does that. He's got some plan. I don't know. I can't save him there. I'm trying. I can't do it. But for a rabbi in New York to show up at this guy's event on a Jewish holiday is absolutely despicable. Any other word you can think of?
No, there's no way his wife was there last night, right?
She lives there. What are you talking about?
I know, but was she at the event? There's no way.
Probably not. She probably went to some
she would
mosque
not be
with
welcome there.
Mahmoud Khalil's wife, and who the hell knows? Yeah. Went to some coffee shop in Brooklyn and in Williamsburg where they love hating on the Jews.
I know you're shocked, but what was it? What was the number we saw of Jews that voted for him? It was a pretty high number.
It depends. Some will tell you 30%.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I don't believe that's true.
Let's say it's 20%. So that's still a fair amount of people.
Way too many people. Yeah. And I do think that's probably accurate. I do think 20%. I know people. I don't know them personally, but I know of them, Jews, two of them, not even gay, and they voted for this guy. I know who they are. And I can't have a conversation with these people. You just can't do it. So if you were there last night, shame on you. All right, tonight I'll be at an event with good Jews. Great Jews, actually. It's an annual event at a gorgeous place in Hewlett. I forget the name. It starts with an S. It's about the swankiest place on Long Island. Gorgeous golf course. And it's a lovely event called Ataret Kohanim. It's put on by two legends here in New York, Dov and Shani Heikind. Dov, of course, nearly 4 decades as a big-time assemblyman in Borough Park, Brooklyn. They now live in the 5 towns. But they got their big event coming up later on tonight.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
About as nice as it gets. And I love the organization. Had a chance to tour with these people in Israel many years ago. My first trip to Israel. I'm going back actually in 3 weeks, and I'm very excited about it. But my first trip, I toured with these lovely people. And Moti Dan has become a friend over the years. But this is all about my dear friends Dov and Shani Heikind. Dov was on the show just last week doing a great job. And his wife, Shani, is really in charge of Ataret Kohanim. She runs the whole thing. And she puts on this beautiful dinner every year. And they always invite me to come up and speak. They've honored me and my beautiful wife, Danielle. It's a great event for a great cause. And it all comes your way later on tonight. So Shani is with me right now. Shani, it's a great event. You do a beautiful job. I can't wait to see you later on tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sid. I can't wait to see you, Sid. And it is going to be a fabulous night. Believe me, I got a lot of, there's a team here. There's a team in place that puts this evening together, like we say in Hebrew, L'man Yerushalayim Ir HaKodesh, and, for the sake of Jerusalem the Holy, and for the sake of our amazing pioneering families living on the front lines in Jerusalem, where you and I and, the vast majority of Jews would never live. But these people have so much courage, and they're so dedicated to the proposition that Jerusalem must remain a united capital forever and ever. And we have families living among some of the most hateful, not all, I never generalize, but some of the most hateful Arabs in Israel. And they have thrown stones and Molotov cocktails. They've tried to chase,
peaceful, wonderful Jewish families out of our neighborhoods. And our families say, no, we will not be intimidated. We will not run away. We have every right to live in buildings that Jews lived in before 1948, when the Arabs refused to protect them. They said, you'll come back after the war. Well, as you know, Sid, we won the war. We, the IDF, the Haganah, Irgun, together, the people of Israel won the war. But we didn't win the old city and the neighborhoods outside the old city. Here comes Ateret Kohanim, reuniting Jerusalem, keeping Jerusalem united with Jewish life. And that's the purpose of tonight's event, to honor people, supporters, pillars of Jerusalem who understand that for Jerusalem to remain a united capital, you have to have Jews living everywhere in Jerusalem. That's what tonight is all about.
It's fantastic. And I've seen some of the places. Dan, of course, took me and Danielle around. And like I said, I met Moti Dan for the first time by the Kotel. And, I've done it with him, too. And you guys are doing amazing work. I went to a hockey game at the UBS Arena, Shani, where the Islanders play Sunday.
I saw the picture.
Yeah, in Tel Aviv versus Jerusalem. And I got to tell you, I'm not exaggerating, at least, 30 people, maybe 50. That's a lot. Came up to me and said, hey, I can't wait to see you on Tuesday night. I see you every year at the big dinner. I'm telling you the truth. And it made my heart warm. But again, what you guys are doing, it's so important because the old city is beautiful. And, maybe while you're at it, you should invite this creep, this horrible anti-Semite jihad mayor. He was celebrating Nakba Day a couple of days ago. Clearly, he doesn't know history.
Tragedy.
What a tragedy. He doesn't realize that in 1948, after Israel agreed to split the land with the Arabs, it wasn't good enough for them. So 5 Arab countries, 5 of them, countries like Egypt and Syria and Jordan, decided they're going to fight us. And they got their asses kicked because Israel always wins. But for some reason, this idiot mayor seems to think that the Palestinians are victims when, in fact, it was their people who started the war and got their asses kicked.
Correct. And they've never accepted the whole idea of a Jewish state. You cannot make peace with people who are determined to destroy you. Since October 7th of 2023, when these horrible monsters invaded and destroyed, there are no words for their bestiality. They would do the same thing over again if they could, Sid. Israel has to be strong. Israel has to be proud. There's only one Jewish state, and we're willing to live side by side in peace with all people in Jerusalem. But you got to behave like mentioned. You have to understand that Jerusalem is the heart and soul of the Jewish people. We welcome all people to live peaceably, but if your purpose is to destroy and kill and torture, there's no room for that. Sid,
no,
all.
I agree. I know this is funny. I had your husband on last week after we saw those riots in Midwood, Brooklyn. I grew up there. I grew up on East 22nd in Quentin by Madison High School. I know that shul in Midwood very, very well. I know that area very, very well. And your husband Dov and I were so frustrated. And I said to him, and I said the same thing to Michael Rappaport, many others, enough with the bullhorns. No one cares, okay? I know they mean well, all these influencers, and they're out there with the bullhorns, and nobody cares. They don't do that. They go out there and they get violent. Now, I'm not encouraging violence necessarily, but your husband and I both agree that the JDL today, that's not the JDL when we were kids, or the ADL for that matter. When I was a kid, Shani, if a pro-Hamas group came into Brooklyn, they would have gotten their asses kicked up and down the streets all day long. Now, Jews don't do that. Now they run away, they hide their yarmulkes, and they take them off or hide their chai, and they yell and scream on a bullhorn, and it's nonsense. It's time for the Jewish people, like your husband says, and I agree, to learn how to fight. And when I say fight, I mean really fight. What did you think when your husband said that?
I say, be careful, Dove. I know what Dove means by fighting. I know he means to stand tall, proud, as a Jew, not to be afraid, not to take that yarmulke off, not to hide your mug and dove inside your shirt, but to say, I'm a proud Jew. Plain and simple. And Jews have to know how to defend themselves. And Jews have to be able to answer the enemy and this hogwash about the Nakba. You know, this is after the Holocaust and losing 6 million of our people. The Arabs refuse to let the Jews come home. This is our only land. There are plenty of other Arab countries. We
42.
didn't steal land from one Arab.
Nope.
Sid.
No. I believe there are 42 Muslim countries, or maybe 44. I don't even know. We have one, and they can't stand it. It keeps Tucker Carlson, that liar, up at night. He did call President Trump an antichrist. You got it on tape. So, finally, to wrap this great conversation up, I don't know in terms of tickets if people can still go out there later on tonight. Again, it's a gorgeous venue. It's a lovely event. If they want to donate, obviously.
I will give my number.
Okay.
I will give you my number, 917-297-2075. If somebody would like to call me, we do ask. There is an admission. We would love to have people with us because the money raised at this dinner is going to, help our families living on the front lines, our children's activities. We're building a new yeshiva in the old city, a yeshiva high school. There's so many things to do that people can be our partners. And I must mention, Jerry and Sue Wartsky, and you will be presenting the award to this unassuming, quiet, modest gentleman, Jerry. I mean, coming after Auschwitz and everything his family endured in the Holocaust. These are people like an Anne Honig, Aleha Shalom, from Far Rockaway, and we're honoring her memory. People who understood going back back to 1983, that Jews have a right to live throughout the old city, and we have to be their partners. And then, one second, I must mention our two lone soldiers, Jacob Verschleiser and Ephraim Abrams. Can you imagine leaving the comforts of home? You don't have to, you're not drafted, but these two soldiers, like many others, but we're honoring these two, Ephraim Abrams and Jacob Verschleiser, who picked up from Oceanside and Lawrence and went to fight in the IDF, saw their buddies killed, but they're determined to participate in the defense of our people, in the defense of our Israel. It's going to be a magnificent event. Love you, Sid. Can't wait to see you.
Love you too. And I had the pleasure of sharing the stage. You were there, you and Dove, that night. In fact, you were two of the first people Danielle and I saw, third night of Hanukkah, East Wing of the White House, when President Trump called me up on stage, and Jerry Wartsky was there as well, also made his way up to the stage. So it's a huge honor for me tonight to do that, and you're the greatest. I really think you're the greatest, Shani, and love Dove too. And it's going to be great tonight. I can't wait to see you. I love you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sid. Can't wait to see you, Sid.
You
All
too.
the best. Have a great day.
God bless you. Shani Heiken right there, the lovely wife of Dove Heiken, and we'll all be hanging out together later on tonight. The Terra Corny Emanuel dinner in Hewlett always makes for a wonderful.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Here's the guy I want to see, and I don't know if his wife would let him, and I've told him this already, and KT McFarland was on his show the other day, and she said this too, if you know KT, right? Yeah. Used to work for Trump and all of that, right? Sid Rosenberg, the mayor of New York City. Why not? My buddy Sid for freaking mayor. Now, I know I've talked to Sid about that. His wife is not crazy about him being the mayor, but there you go.
Hey, next time you talk to Sid, make sure you tell him you brought it up on our podcast.
I will.
Let me tell you something about Sid. I have to say, Joe, every once in a while I get a little tired of him because he talks about himself all the time, but that's the way anybody does. We all do it, so I don't hold it against him. He would make head and shoulders over what we have today. It would be a complete turnaround, and it would be so refreshing to get an ordinary guy in there and to try to do the job. They couldn't go with Curtis Lewa. He ran a bad campaign. I backed Curtis all the way. But Sid's I'm going to tell you know something. The fact that you mentioned Sid, Sid's a polarizing figure to a certain extent. You're going to get people say, "Oh, what a budget! Come on!" But for the most part, he loves Israel. He's going to do the right thing for New York. He sees the crime getting out of control. He's going to do his due diligence. He would do a great job as mayor. I really believe that.
Look, I think, Sid, here's what you ought to do. Watch what happens in Los Angeles. And if Spencer Pratt wins the mayor's race in Los Angeles, I want to see Sid Rosenberg hire the same social media guys and the same social media team that Spencer Pratt is using, and then go work for Sid Rosenberg.
Talking about the Sid from Mayor stuff, and then we played what Joe Beningo actually brought up in the conversation. KT McFarland, the highly respected KT McFarland, who worked for 4 presidents, most recently President Trump. She's on Fox News all the time. She's on our show every Friday, saying just last Friday that she wants to see me run. So the list continues to grow. You know some of the names. You've heard them on this program, from Bruce Blakeman to Lara Trump. There's bigger names that I haven't told you about. So I will continue to, at the very least, think about it. In the end, it will be Danielle's decision, my family's decision. But as I talked about last hour, while I continue to build this huge radio career, and want to continue to do that, that is what I'm looking at right now. That's my focus. I do love this city. I do love the people in this city. And I just don't see anybody out there right now that could beat this guy. I don't think I can, to be perfectly honest. So, hey, John, what's up, buddy? The great John Katsimatidis. Good morning, my friend. How are you? Everything good? The sun is shining. And it's hot, John, 96 degrees. My man, John Katsimatidis, Mr. Red Apple Media, here early this morning. Listen to John later on this afternoon at 5 o'clock with Rita Cosby. And, of course, 8 a.m. Sunday mornings on the Cats Roundtable. So there you go. That's I appreciate that, Joe and Ralph and KT. But I got a whole bunch of guests stopping by. The voice, the Hall of Fame voice of the NBA Finals, and more importantly, our New York Knicks. Mike Breen will be here, 9 o'clock hour, Game 1. Later on tonight, Knicks and Cavaliers, Eastern Conference Finals. John Ondrasik. You guys know I love Five for Fighting. I love them. Their songs are great. Lou and I play their songs all the time. Five for Fighting himself, John Ondrasik, big Trump guy. Trump loves him, too. He will join us. That's a legitimate celebrity. Also in the 9 o'clock hour, lawfare attorney Brooke Goldstein putting together a huge rally outside the New York Times building next Tuesday. She'll be here in the 8 o'clock hour, and we'll do a little 1-2 punch of Uncle Bo Deedle, and the lady running against Laura Gillen and Anthony D'Esposito's old spot on Long Island, making her in-studio debut coming up next.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The television and Fox News on just now. Somebody help Jane Driscoll, please. I'm begging you. Come on, guys. And I'm watching Trump standing on stage with Mark Cuban in what was a very uncomfortable and awkward situation. Cuban has decided to try to help the president who he doesn't like. He's been very honest how much he doesn't like President Trump over the years, but I guess the drugs, the Trump RX, making drugs available at lower prices, Mark Cuban is all for that. So Cuban has decided now to help the president. So watching Cuban on stage yesterday with my friend Dr. Oz, who was in these studios just 3 days ago, and my friend Bobby Kennedy, is a weird look. Trump, Bobby, Oz, and Cuban. But it's good to see that every now and then some of these lunatic Democrats come to the realization that maybe Trump is trying to help. All right, big race coming up. Congress, Long Island. This young lady's been on this show once before. She was on with Peter King. This is her first solo appearance on the show and her first visit ever to the studio with me. She's running against Laura Gillen in the spot that my friend Anthony D'Esposito used to have. This is Janine Driscoll. Janine, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Sid. Good morning to you.
Nice to have you here. Thank you for making the trip in. You got 6 states in play today, obviously, with Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, and Pennsylvania. This has nothing to do with Nassau County, but your race in the midterms will be a big deal. We need every seat we can keep, every seat we can get in your case. And there are some of these races today that President Trump and Sid Rosenberg really care about, specifically Kentucky, because for some reason Kentucky has amassed all these really bad Republicans. They hate Trump. They're all traitors, every one of them. Rand Paul, no good. Mitch McConnell, no good. But the worst of all is Thomas Massie. And every decent Republican in this country is hoping that Massie gets killed today by Ed Gilrain, Navy SEAL, running for that seat. How do you feel about these 6 races going on across America today?
Well, I mean, the one thing that I find that bothers me a lot is that a lot of these races, come from the fact that people are not standing behind the president and what the Republican agenda is. And I don't understand that, because we fought so hard to get to the point that we're at today with President Trump and his agenda. And why are these, people in Congress turning on him? And I have a real issue with that because, again, we can't risk going back to what we've been through, and we just experienced it. So I do think a lot of these races, they're all very critical, but certainly we want to see people elected that are going to stand with the president 100% of the time.
That's 100% true, and we just saw Bill Cassidy lose in Louisiana last week. That creep out of that senator out of Louisiana. Trump was funny. He goes, "I'm happy your career is over." And again, I'll be with President Trump coming up this Friday night right here in New York with Mike Lawler in Rockland County. Looking forward to have the president right here in New York. But again, he's keeping his eye on all these races. He'll keep his eye on yours. Yours is a big one. Laura Gillen, D'Esposito beat her. Then she came back. Then she beat him. He has decided not to run again. He's going to stay in that Labor Department where he serves right now as President Trump's general inspector. He's doing a very good job. He's uncovered billions of dollars in fraud, much like Lee Zeldin at the EPA and Dr. Oz with Medicare and Medicaid. So he's staying there. So here's your opportunity right now, Janine, to do what you can do to get that seat back on Nassau County. How's that going so far?
It's actually going really well, Sid. I've had an enormous amount of support, obviously, from the party, the local Nassau County Republican Party, but even an outpouring of support from people around the country, my friends, family, but even strangers, because they know that this seat is definitely flippable. I hate to use that word flippable, but it is flippable. And, we have really the factors that are supporting me are good. When we look at what the district is, who the people are in the district, there's a lot of middle-class people in the district who need relief that's not being offered to them right now through the current representation. And I've been there already for 7 years, and I have worked with all of the constituents on a daily basis, trying to lower their taxes, trying to teach them how they can, get relief from the federal and the state government to lower property taxes, and even to a certain extent, the income taxes with, what happened with SALT last year. So that I am very tuned into the needs of the constituents. A broader picture, the whole country. Obviously, it is just incredibly important for us to maintain the House and really pick up more seats, because right now it's razor thin, and it makes it very difficult. And that also, like you were just going back to what you were saying, it gives people an opportunity to go against the president, because he knows that we're very vulnerable with such a thin majority.
It's an interesting place where you live, too, because there are more Democrats than Republicans. Yeah. That's the case, like 70,000 maybe in your district, but yet Bruce Blakeman has won the last 2 Nassau County executive races easily, not even close. He blew out his competitor, that psycho, last time. Anthony D'Esposito won, and we've seen Andrew Garbarino win, and obviously it's Suffolk, a little different, but, Lalota, he won too. And you've got great leadership with guys like Joe Cairo. He's terrific. I love Joe, and Peter King. So for some reason, we talk about common sense a lot. It doesn't exist in the Democrat Party. It's complete nonsense. It's a unicorn. It's a pipe dream. There's like one guy. His name is John Fetterman. That's it. The rest of the Democrat Party, it doesn't matter how they campaign. They all become lunatics because they're scared to death of the progressives and the DSA. So they're all lunatics, all of them. But yet for some reason in your county, where it's mostly Democrat, Republicans win.
I think that, well, believe me, that we definitely have fringe people too. They're there.
Oh, yeah.
But we have enough common sense Democrats and I think people who just don't want to become Republicans for whatever reason, they have an issue with it. And they see that the county is extremely successful. Bruce Blakeman has done a phenomenal job. He's a good friend of mine. I served with Bruce on the town board before he became the county executive. I actually also served with Anthony. So I know these guys really well. Bruce has done an unbelievable job in Nassau. People are happy with Bruce. They like him. He is like every guy. He's a family man, happily married, beautiful family, grandchildren. And he's normal to talk to. He wants to talk about sports. He wants to talk about how are you doing? How's your job? He always checks in with me. Always, ask how are you? How's your husband? So this is the kind of leadership we want. But he's done a great job economically. Last night, 86 new police officers graduated in Nassau County. Pat Ryder spoke. Pete King was there. Bruce, obviously, gave a speech. And it's so important for us to maintain what we have in Nassau. It's safe. Economically, it's sound. There are issues, obviously, that need to be addressed, and really that really probably comes more from the congressional representation. But for right now, we do have those common sense Democrats, and I'm confident they're going to support me. I win when I've run twice in the town of Hempstead. That's a very large area, largest township in America, and both times I approached 60, something like that %. And so I have a lot of Democrats as well. So I do think we are, situated for a big win in November.
Now, one more. Let's talk about some of these differences between you and your competitor. I do love Pat Ryder. He's a great police commissioner. He really is. I'm very, very close with Jessica Tisch here in New York, too. But I love Pat. I love Ann Donnelly. I helped Ann Donnelly win. They'll be the first to tell you that. Bruce Blakeman and Ann Donnelly will both admit when they first won, largely because of me. And I was friends with Laura Curran at the time, but here comes this Republican with white hair, a good speaker. I liked him. And they both won, and that has been a dream for Nassau County. But let's get to the big differences between you and the lady you're taking on, Laura Gillen. What are the 2 or 3 things that you promise voters in Nassau County that will get better if, in fact, they vote for you?
Well, the first thing is I will continue to do my advocacy on behalf of the taxpayers, to do whatever I can to lower taxes, property taxes. I'm constantly lobbying with the legislative body, trying to get, more income, income limits raised so that lowered, so that more and more people can, qualify for these exemptions. But the big difference between us, I think, and if you look at our resumes, very similar. 2 women, married, kids, both of us lawyers, Catholic school educated. The biggest difference is that she just votes along whatever Hakeem Jeffries demands.
Oh, yeah.
And it is upsetting. She just does not look at what her constituents need or what they elected her to do. And so that, to me, is the biggest thing. I mean, I have a conscience. I'm a devout Catholic. I have a conscience. I am going to do the right thing. I'm elected to represent the people, and I take that very seriously. Listen, I'm not spring chicken. I'm old.
You look great.
We're the same age.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, 1967.
Okay. That's it.
So
that means I'm old too. Thanks.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm at a point. My kids are getting older. They're going to start getting married. I could probably retire in a couple of years, but I'm doing this because I really care about the people in Nassau. I care about my family. I have 5 kids. I have my family, the entire family lives out there. There's about 30 of us. That's just the immediate family. I have my 2 sisters, my brother, 17 nieces and nephews, 5 great nieces and nephews.
Where are you guys? What towns exactly?
So it's called the Village of Belrose. It's right next to Floor Park.
Yes.
And my one sister is in Floor Park. My other little sister, Jackie, and my brother John lives across the street from me with my dad. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But so we're all there,
Yeah.
and it's not just about my family. Obviously, it's about families. I go to church on Sunday. I see massive amounts of people, and that's what I want to do. I want to continue trying to advocate for people, and really, senior citizens, veterans. These are people that have been left behind. Especially during the Biden years where we had open borders. And that's another thing, that Gillen did not really support, closing the border. How can you leave the border open? And that's another thing that I worry about because my little village borders Queens. And believe me, I grew up in Middle Village, Queens. I love the city. But I saw what happened with the open borders. These illegals are coming into my village. They would it was just a very bad situation, somewhat dangerous, riding around on these scooters. Pat Ryder actually had to come into my village and give a presentation, and they were arresting people left and right. So it just became untenable. I can't go back to that. So I'm all in 1,000%. I got Chairman Cairo is unbelievable. I mean, you know him. He's amazing, amazing. And he's got my back, and I trust him. So I'm all in.
You're good. Now you've got the 5 towns too, right?
I do.
Yeah, I'll be in Hewlett later on tonight. What's the name of that place? I think Tommy Leonard told me. Sawani. That beautiful. I guess it's a golf course.
Oh, that's a gorgeous golf course. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be in the 5 towns later too for something. I have 3 dinners tonight that I'm going to. One is, I think it's Cedarhurst.
Yeah.
But I'm
love Cedarhurst too. 2 of my oldest sisters are married in Cedarhurst. I was bar mitzvahed in Lawrence at Beth David. So I know the other 5 towns very, very well. Well, it's great to meet you in person. I think you're terrific. I really do. I think you're going to win, and we're going to do everything we can here on Sid and Friends in the morning to help you do that. You've got the great foundation, like you talked about, with all those terrific people out there in Nassau County. You know the issues. You're very smart. You've had political success in that county before. You're ripe for a victory, Janine, so let's get it done.
Thank you so much, Sid. I really appreciate you having me come in. I wanted to make a personal connection with you.
Nice to meet you. You're terrific. Janine Driscoll right there. She's running against Laura Gillen in Nassau County, and hopefully she's going to get us that Congress seat back. My prediction is she will.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All CNN is doing all morning long is talking about how much this country hates the Muslims, which, again, I felt badly saying because there was a tragic event that included innocent Muslims being murdered yesterday, and my heart goes out to those people. But they can't wait to talk about the Muslims, Islamophobia, the same thing this idiot mayor does, when the truth is this country is not crazy about anti-Muslim. They're crazy about anti-Jew. That's it. It's not even close. Sorry, I know yesterday was awful. Tragedy, all those things. It's not even close. But Mamdani and these networks, they're dying to make it close. Equal, equivalent, whatever word you want to use. So these rallies don't work. So I got a call from Brooke Goldstein yesterday. She's a big-time attorney, lawfare attorney. She's going to join me in about 30 minutes. She said, Sid, we need you. So it's how bad I am, Lou. Because I say no to about 100 things a week, and I say yes to about 5 or 6 things a month. That's about it.
How many?
5 or 6. Is that too low, you think?
No, I just didn't get the number. Now it's
about 5 or 6. Yeah.
So basically, one big one a week.
Yeah, basically. Maybe like this week I did. Next week I'll do 2, Jerusalem Post and MJE, but she said, we need you. She said, you're the leader. I said, well, I was very, very honored and humbled, and there's already a big flyer out, which has me speaking. But I tell you how out of touch I am. I've been saying all morning long that I will be doing this. I never come at night, never. It better be right after the show. This one's at 7 o'clock tonight, and I've been saying all morning it's outside the New York Times building, which would make sense because this Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, Christoph, this lowlife, who tried to sell a story where Israelis were training dogs to rape Palestinian prisoners. This guy should be fired and never work again. But it's not outside the New York Times building, this rally Tuesday night. It's outside Gracie Mansion.
Oh.
So hopefully Mamdani will be walking the dog or just coming home. I mean, there's nobody in New York that wouldn't pay just to see me and Mamdani kind of right next to each other, face to face, even by accident, somewhere in New York City. I think people would pay for that.
Oh, those pictures will be all over the post.
I'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
See, Bo Dietl had that situation at the White House when the mayor came walking out of President Trump's office, and he was walking in, and Bo handled it great. I love Bo. But Rosenberg Mamdani would light this city on fire. May happen next Tuesday night. Anyway, talking about the great cop and Uncle Bo. We love Bo so much. Here he is for his Tuesday appearance, the great Bo Dietl. Bo, good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. And, you really got to think about running for mayor. That is not an easy thing. They'll come at you all different ways. you'd make a great mayor, Sid. But in reality,
hold on, stop! Don't talk anymore. Give yourself a breath there because I got to cut this up. I got to add. I've got Lara Trump. I've got Bruce Blakeman. I've got KT McFarland, Rachel Campo Stuffy. I got the president, too, between us. But now I got Bo Dietl. I got to use that audio because Bo ran for mayor. He did it. They screwed him. Bill de Blasio screwed him. The city screwed him. They smeared him on Easter Sunday in the New York Daily News. But Bo, you ran for the same reason. Well, I would even consider it because you'd have to be a crazy person to run for that job in this city. But you did it because you legitimately love this city.
I love this city so much. My kids, my grandchildren are here. And before I get into my Mandami thing, let me tell you, I'm just happy that the Long Island Railroad strike is over. A lot of people don't understand. The MTA is run by elephant ears. Jano Liba. He's got ears like a friggin' elephant. On top of that thing, a lot of people don't know what's going on with the MTA. This guy should be taken out. We got to look at one thing. You're talking about this $23 billion budget. Then there's a $68 billion capital plan that all of a sudden now you've got $1.5 billion in overtime. Look, I support all union guys, but some of those union guys on the Long Island Railroad were making up near $400,000 a year with their overtime.
What?
You know who was put out? The 300,000 people using it, and people that work for me that couldn't get to work, taking 3-4 hours. So before you go on strike, learn who you're going to hurt. You hurt the people. You got your raise. You got that. I support unions. I'm part of unions, but let's be real about it. Who suffered from this? The people that couldn't travel on the trains. You want to negotiate, you negotiate. The only problem is when you got a guy like Jano Liba, elephant ears, you can't negotiate in good faith because the guy don't have a clue. And it's just, I'm glad it's over. I'm glad everybody got everything. That's a lot of money, for these guys making up near $400,000 a year. That's a lot of money. So congratulations, Long Island Railroad Union guys. You guys did very good. Don't do this again. Don't hurt the people that take the damn train.
The only thing I don't want to hear today, because that was a great job there, Bo Dietl, great job. What I don't want to hear today is anybody congratulating the governor because all she did was cause issues with this. She did nothing to help. All she did was cause issues.
Okay, and here, now we're going to stepping right in there. A lot of people don't understand what happened. See, Mondumi, he is running the city with fear. Oh, I need $8 billion. It's going to be short. He knew damn well that he couldn't run. He couldn't balance the budget. And then all of a sudden, the $8 billion, where do you think it came from? $2.3 billion came from deferring pension payments. They're borrowing from pensions. People understand something. So every fireman, every cop, sanitation workers, that means for every dollar they rated today, you're going to owe $1.61. That's what they're doing. They're not balancing the budget. They're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And on top of it, what do you think this all happened about? That snaggletooth governor, that buck-tooth woman with that eye, she's got that eye makeup. Enough with that eye makeup. You look like a horror fight. She comes in there. You know why? She wanted one thing. She wants to suck up to Mondumi because she wants the Democratic votes of New York City. That's why she's doing this whole thing. And even Ken Griffin, all of a sudden, Mondumi thinks he's going to meet with my friend Jamie Dimon, who I know personally. Jamie Dimon should ream him another butthole because right now.
Well, hold on. I'll tell you something. Let me tell you one thing about Jamie Dimon because before you talk about people leaving, I will tell you that right after Mamdani won, I was very upset with Bill Ackman. I've come around on Bill now because I think his heart's in the right place. But he reached out the olive branch right away. But nobody reached out the olive branch quicker to Mamdani after he won than the aforementioned Jamie Dimon. I'll say something else about Jamie Dimon because I have these conversations with Larry Kudlow, and the president will tell you the same thing. He's not a friend. This guy is out there every day predicting the end of the world economically. We're going to have a recession. This is bad. That is bad. So you may like Jamie Dimon, and always a big deal in this city. He's a Mr. Money guy. But the truth is, he is not a friend of ours. He's not.
Well, all I know is one thing. When Mondumi talked about the working class, right? He raised the fees for ambulance rides and ESM treatment, increased parking tickets, bus lanes, expanded the permits. He's taxing the rich bullcrap. He's taxing the everyday people. People don't realize. It turns out that the young people that voted for this scumbag, the 20 and 30-year-olds, the jobs are not there. The rents are rising like crazy. And you know what? Something affordable, this word affordable, he is doing nothing. He's a piece of garbage. And then we're talking about with the cops. He blames the cops for the overtime. He blames he loves to blame. And the reality is this guy is a piece of garbage. Now you got the MTA. I got to go back with this. The MTA hired a company. One of the companies that's taken over every security company in the world. They're a $23 billion company, Allied Security. They put people on the job as long as they breathe, as long as they have a pulse, they put them as security guards. They underbid everybody. They were getting $30 million a year for security guards on the MTA. And all of a sudden they caught one of the guys selling subway things, having people come in there and taking money out of there. My problem is right now we have a security company that's the largest in our country. All they do is put bodies. And when I have to bid for jobs that I lose, they lose money to get it. And it sucks because I'm out there trying to put the better people. I tell people, you want good security, you got to pay people a decent wage. You can't give a minimum wage and expect for a decent wage. Oh, Bo, I want the cheapest security, but the best people with the cheapest. That's an oxymoron, you idiots. So that just bothers me. Okay, but this is important now. This is very important. Mrs. Ugly raises her head again. Randy Ugly Face Weingarten. She used $1.4 million of union funds to write a friggin' book about her liberal ideas. This ugly-faced woman, I don't know who's more uglier. She is ugly, and now she's taking money from the union. And on top of it, my guy is Elon Musk. I'm going to tell you about Elon Musk. First of all, I got to be very open about it. SpaceX, I got a little piece in there.
Okay.
SpaceX.
Yeah.
People don't understand something. What is Elon Musk? We saw him in action when he was finding all the fraud and all the theft in every one of our governmental institutions. He showed they're talking about somewhere between 30 and 35% of the trillions of dollars in federal contracts and federal monies there that are fraud and stealing. Elon Musk is one of the smartest guys in the world because he saw right through it. And right today, we're living. If we tightened up the theft, because we saw it's in Minnesota. Oh, just open up a Medicare office. Just put Medicare on it. Don't take your check. Nobody's checking this thing. Fraud is so outrageous across the board. And you know what? Elon Musk is going to be the first trillionaire. And I'm going to tell you something. Your phones that you got, it's a thing called, what are you doing right now? It's called Starlink. Every phone in the world will be Starlink. SpaceX, and I'm not trying to pump it up because I told you, I have a little thing in there. I'm not trying to pump it up. This is going to be where the world will be going. Now, the other side, AI. They're the leaders in AI. So it's a natural. You got Starlink, you got AI, and this man has the one that discovered it all. He's the greatest mind. He hit on the fraud and the theft that was out there. I don't know why we shut him down. We should have let him continue, and he could have saved America. Billions, hundreds of billions.
No, I think he had enough. I don't think we shut him down. I think the Doge you're talking about, he had enough. And look, you talked about it, Medicare and Medicaid. Dr. Oz is on that case. I mean, you had all these hospice centers in Los Angeles, big hospice buildings, not one person inside of them. We saw the great job that Nick Shirley did in Minnesota with autism centers and preschools. Nobody inside of them. New York's in trouble. Kathy Hochul, plenty of fraud here. So between, like I mentioned earlier, you've got Dr. Oz on the medical side. You've got Anthony D'Esposito on the labor side. You've got Lee Zeldin on the EPA side. President Trump's administration is doing a tremendous job. But it started with Elon, but I think Elon, Bo, had enough.
Yeah, but you know what? Also, all of a sudden, it's coming in out now about the BLM. Remember, BLM. This guy came out, this DeRusso. He called the movement total scam with the George Floyd. Nobody wants to know about that. And then the COVID scam, this ugly, she's not as ugly as the other one. How about the congresswoman over there with, what's her name? Eton Omar.
Elon Omar, right.
Yeah, $250 million COVID scam. It's all around there. These people should be getting locked up and put in jail. One more thing, very important. Bruce Blakeman, my friend on Long Island, that hope will be the next governor. You know what? You know how many criminal, illegal aliens, including murders and sexual predators, in New York City? There are over 7,100 known criminals that they've released and are out there right now. What Blakeman has to do is go to the subway station where that 83-year-old Air Force veteran died and was killed by that illegal immigrant. Start going around and say, why are we not turning these people over to ICE? They are illegal criminals. Why not? I'm asking you, Mundummy, why not? Well, you know what? Your wife and you and your family should become victims, and maybe you'll look at it differently.
I mean, thank you, Bo Dietl, for another amazing performance and appearance on the program. Usually that's when people start to come around, unfortunately. When it happens to them or somebody they love, they start to realize the seriousness. Not that a lot of us, I'm a good-hearted guy, so if I see something happen to somebody else, you bet it affects me, but we're human. And when it happens to us, I remember Geraldo Rivera, he loved Barack Obama, right? He loved him. And then ISIS went nuts one day in Paris, and they were shooting people, killing people outside a cafe, killed a bunch of people inside the soccer stadium, set off a whole bunch of bombs, and then killed a couple of hundred people, I believe, inside that amphitheater. And then all of a sudden, Geraldo Rivera wasn't all that high on Barack Obama. Why? Because his daughter was there, and thank God she ended up okay, because I love Geraldo. But that's what happens. When it hits close to home, sometimes we come to our senses. The sad part is that has to happen for that result. We'll take a short break. Bo, you were terrific as always. Bo was great.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
But today is a very, very big day. The midterms, of course, are coming up in November, but not really either. They start before. We know that, thank God, that jerk-off senator from Louisiana, Bill Cassidy's career came to an end last week. Thank God for that, Nomi. We know that President Trump had a big night in Indiana a couple of weeks ago. All those senators that were against President Trump's redistricting, changing the maps, they all lost. All 5 of them lost. So a couple of good days for my friend the president, who looks like, again, I will see on Friday. Indiana, Louisiana, and today 6 of them, the 6 primary states today include Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Kentucky. Now, I don't know what's going on with Kentucky. I've been there. I used to do a show, believe it or not, when I was syndicated, when I first started doing terrestrial radio. It didn't take long. I was very fortunate. I went from being on internet radio to being on like 70 stations across America. You guys know that. Lou knows that. And there were 2 different companies that syndicated the show I did with Scott Kaplan out of Fort Lauderdale before I moved to New York in the year 2000. Got my job at 102.7 FM WNEW. One was the Sports Fan Radio Network, JT the Break, Fabulous Sports Babe, and the other was Joel Hollander and Westwood One. And we were on in a little place called Clarksville, Tennessee, who the Monkees actually mentioned once. Remember the last train to Clarksville? We were there. We did our show from a place called Gilligan's, right in the middle of Clarksville. And it is really right on the border of Kentucky by Fort Campbell, one of our great forts in the United States. So we went out in Kentucky one night. But I love the state. I love the college basketball, the people. It's a great state. For some reason, every backstabbing, and I mean this, treasonous politician in our Republican Party comes from Kentucky. Not all of them, but the majority. Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell for years has been a thorn in our side. He has not been a friend. See ya. Then you get this idiot Rand Paul, who is another guy that wakes up every day, and if Trump likes it and Republicans like it, he doesn't. Forget about his son, that loser, William, who came up at Mike Lawler at a bar in Washington, D.C. last week and told him he wished that all the Jews and gays were dead. Yeah, that's Rand Paul's son. We still haven't heard from Rand yet. I never liked that guy. But the worst of all of them, worse than McConnell, worse than Rand Paul, is this loser, Thomas Massie. And Thomas is one of those guys that all of a sudden starts caring about stuff that he never cared about before, if in fact can come back and harm President Trump. If you don't know that, you don't know anything about politics. He's not a good guy. He's not on the side of right. He's on the side of, I can't stand Trump, so whatever he's for, I'm against. And let me find stories that'll make the president look bad, even if the president is not involved. So I had this conversation with Brian Kilmeade, our colleague here at WABC, the great TV guy too. Fox and Friends every morning, One Nation, 10 p.m. Sunday nights. And again, he follows me on this station every weekday. And I said, I got to tell you, I find myself, I'm a big Knicks fan, huge Knicks fan, very excited about the Knicks and Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals tonight. Again, as I mentioned earlier, our Knicks have not been to the NBA Finals in 27 years. Since Patrick Ewing and the guys lost to San Antonio. So this is a series we can win. I'm very excited. But I said to Brian this morning, and I meant it, I said, I am rooting with the same, I guess, vigor for the guy in Kentucky, and his name is Ed Galrain, to beat Thomas Massie like I am rooting for the Knicks to beat the Cavaliers tonight. That's a big statement. No?
It's kind of the same thing because they're unknowns. You don't know whether the Knicks are going to win, and you don't know if Thomas Massie's going to win.
It's also kind of the same thing when people say to me, it seems so seamless, the transition you've made from sports to politics, because it is the same thing. Because I root for the Knicks like I root for President Trump, right? And I hate certain New York teams and Philadelphia Eagles. I hate them like I hate the Democrats. So same zeal rooting for the Knicks tonight as I am for this guy, Galrain, to beat Thomas Massie. So I had this conversation early this morning with Brian Kilmeade about Massie. And here's what Kilmeade had to say, Lewis. This is Brian Kilmeade, cut number 1.
I find him insincere. You know, there's these people that go into Congress, and the way I think you should do it, Sid, is this. You go in there, you're a conservative, you're a liberal, right? And then you have a president that's in your party. You go in there and you say, this is what I believe, and this is how to work it out, and then you go into a committee and you try to do the best you can, and you try to get your points across. But in the end, you got to get something done. Right? Sometimes you got to kill something, and that's getting something done. But other times you got to work with them. I look at Chip Roy. Chip Roy goes every day. He's fighting for a strong border, and he does all these things. But then he says, okay, what's possible? I'm in the minority. What's possible? I'm in the majority, but I only got a 3-seat advantage. And then in the end, he goes, okay, this is the best I can do. Let's get it done. Tom Massie, just the opposite. Rand Paul, just the opposite. They sit there and they belong in a think tank where they come out and they debate things and they write a position paper. But they don't look to get anything done. But what's worse about Tom Massie, Sid, is Tom Massie became a guy with an agenda, which was stop Trump, is to do everything he could to get in Trump's way. So instead of saying, well, I'm a libertarian, I'm different from a conservative, you got to understand, now all of a sudden I am really into the Epstein files. I got to get to the bottom of it. And I'm going to combine with another liberal out in California who believes nothing that I believe because he also doesn't like Trump. And they go ahead and have this victims, and they get the victims together, and they say, we're going to fight for you. Tom Massie couldn't care less about the Epstein files while Joe Biden was in office, or Trump won his first office. Like, that's when Epstein was front and center, too. Nobody cared. But when it looks like Trump's name was going to be a problem, and now it isn't, that's why he goes to bat every day. So that's why this guy just became an enemy. And you vote against a big, beautiful bill as a conservative, you are an idiot. You are just an idiot, giving taxpayer dollars and tax breaks back to working families and everything that was involved with that. So it's just because he's out there trying to destroy Trump. And that's why Trump's putting a lot of resources to get rid of him. But look at the guy they're replacing him with. If he could win, this is another Navy SEAL you put in there, fighting for a conservative state like Kentucky. The president wins it by 20 points. If you're Tom Massie and you're representing the people of Kentucky, why is it in your interest to be anti-Trump? Because your state isn't.
Bottom line. Brian Kilmeade, 100% right. Massey's a bad guy. Paul's a bad. There's a lot of bad Republicans out there. And, again, Bill Cassidy lost last week, and the numbers seem to be boding well for Trump. His guy, Galrain, was down quite a bit, but since Trump has jumped all over Massey the last couple of weeks, according to you, Noam, earlier this morning, Galrain is in position to win, yes?
Yeah, the latest poll showed him surging and Massey falling off. And
good.
Massey had a lead in the polls like 1%, but like a month ago, it was like 10%. So that tells you it's going in his direction.
He's been there for 14 years, and Republicans and Americans, quite frankly, are sick and tired of people masquerading as Republicans who wake up every day hating on President Trump. No thanks. See ya. Go become a Democrat. That's what Massey is. He's a Democrat. I mean, go. Gesint to hate, they say in Yiddish.
It's kind of like the Cleveland Cavaliers are the Democrats. You got like James Harden and Donovan Mitchell that are in the way of our Knicks team. So we want to get rid of them. I want to shave off James Harden's beard.
Why do you hate James Harden?
I got nothing against him, actually. I kind of like James Harden, but he's in the way of the Knicks.
He is in the way. Him and Donovan Mitchell and all those guys.
Evan Mobley, right? I mean, all these guys want it just as bad as the Knicks do, but we want the Knicks to win. So,
but the Knicks are going to win.
Let's hope so.
I think the Knicks are the better team. I really do. We'll see with Massey. Somebody just texted me, somebody I trust, smart person, said that he does very, very well with the younger people in Kentucky. So, young and stupid. What can I tell you? Good luck. I hope Galrain kills him. He's not going to kill him, but at the very least, Massey needs to lose. Again, you stab Trump in the back, you are committing treason. That's how I feel. Get out. We don't need you. We don't want you. But we'll see. We'll see what happens later on today. Again, it's a lot of other races. I know President Trump is endorsing Burt Jones for the governor in Georgia. 6 states in play again, which include Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and as we've been talking about, Kentucky. So we've got, 3 great guests still to come, talking about the Knicks and Cavaliers, the Hall of Fame voice of the NBA Finals, and, of course, the voice of the New York Knicks, my dear friend of over 25 years, the best in the business, Mike Breen. He's going to be here at 9:35. That's a huge one. If you like Fight for Fighting, we love Fight for Fighting on this show. Big Trump supporter, John Andrzik, he's going to be here. That's really cool that we got John Andrzik. I love all their songs, all of them. World, 100 Years, The Riddle, Superman, they're all great songs. So John Andrzik makes his debut. He's excited to be here. And we'll talk to lawfare attorney Brooke Goldstein about the big rally she's putting together. I'll be there. I'm going to speak, actually, outside Gracie Mansion next Tuesday night.
Here's the guy I want to see, and I don't know if his wife would let him. And I've told him this already. And KT McFarland was on his show the other day, and she said this too, if you know KT, right? Yeah. Used to work for Trump and all of that, right? Sid Rosenberg, the mayor of New York City. Why not? My buddy Sid for freaking mayor. Now, I know I've talked to Sid about that. His wife is not crazy about him being the mayor, but there you go.
Hey, next time you talk to Sid, make sure you tell him you brought it up on our podcast.
I will.
Let me tell you something about Sid. I have to say, Joe, every once in a while I get a little tired of him because he talks about himself all the time, but that's the way anybody does. We all do it, so I don't hold it against him. He would make head and shoulders over what we have today. It would be a complete turnaround, and it would be so refreshing to get an ordinary guy in there and to try to do the job. They couldn't go with Curtis Sliwa. He ran a bad campaign. I backed Curtis all the way. But Sid's I'm going to tell you something. The fact that you mentioned Sid, Sid's a polarizing figure to a certain extent. You're going to get people say, what a bunch of come on.
Yeah,
but for the most part, he loves Israel. He's going to do the right thing for New York. He sees the crime getting out of control. He's going to do his due diligence. He would do a great job as mayor. I really believe that.
Look, I think, Sid, here's what you ought to do. Watch what happens in Los Angeles. And if Spencer Pratt wins the mayor's race in Los Angeles, I want to see Sid Rosenberg hire the same social media guys and the same social media team that Spencer Pratt is using, and then go work for Sid Rosenberg, and then you run for mayor.
That's very nice. The legendary voice at WFAN is on every Saturday, still now a contributor to this program once a week, Joe Beningo. Usually talks about the Knicks and the Mets and the Jets, but there's a lot of political talk on this show, at least, on this station. Wants me to run for mayor, and Ralph Romeo, he does the podcast with him. He liked the idea, and of course, K.T. McFarland is a legend, worked for President Trump, and for President, she liked the idea, so the list continues to grow, right? Lara Trump, Bruce Blakeman, Bo Dietl, the president, of course. But we will tackle that at a later date.
Now you're actually telling the guests to pause in the correct spots now. That's...
Well, I don't tell them to bring it up, but when they do bring it up, then I want to make sure the actual cut is perfect, which is pathetic. Well, I know that's pathetic, yes.
There's worse words than pathetic. It's,
I know.
Well, sad covers it, too.
I did tell Bo Dietl, slow down now, slow down now,
okay,
Bo.
We want to make it dramatic. We want, now do this, do it right now, and then end here. We're going to get to that point with all the guests. Okay, I'm going to count you down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now...
Right. I'm going to do that with President Trump when he comes on again.
That should be great. Yeah. I'm ready, Sid. You just count it down. Ready? You're all ready. You know I'm good with the numbers, so let's do it. Yeah, you're wonderful. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Don't change.
Thank you. You got it. We got a big event coming up on Tuesday night. I told you about the phone call earlier in the program from Brooke Goldstein, who happens to be a big-time attorney, lawfare. And she's putting together something outside of Gracie Mansion on Tuesday. And like I told you guys earlier, I do less and less of these things. But she convinced me. She did convince me to show up on Tuesday night. Here's more of what you can expect. Brooke Goldstein. Brooke, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great to have you. And look, you called me yesterday. I told you that I do less and less of these things. I'm tired of seeing my friends in the streets with bullhorns because the truth is it's not helping. In fact, the anti-Semitism numbers are going up. They're going up. So it's doing nothing. It gets them more hits on their Instagram page, and I have no patience for that. But you've got something cooking on Tuesday, which is a lot more meat to the bone than a lot of those rallies. So tell the listeners what's going on outside of Gracie Mansion on Tuesday night.
Yes. So this Tuesday night, the 26th, we are going to be protesting Mamdani outside of Gracie Mansion, and this is really important for New Yorkers to show up and exercise their civic duty and stand up against extremism, whether it's Islamist extremism or the woke left, to come up and show up. And there is so much value to these protests. Like, it's not like we're gathering against anti-Semitism, because frankly, this is not about anti-Semitism. This is not just a problem for the Jews or a problem of Jew hatred. This is a mayor who literally represents the Islamist mobs that have taken over our streets all across the country, but especially in New York. These mobs are showing up outside synagogues. They're showing up in public places. And the goal is to intimidate Americans and to take over. It is a Sharia takeover. But the problem is we have a mayor right now who has literally refused to condemn the pro-terror demonstrations. And these are demonstrations. They don't just scream death to Israel. They're screaming death to America. They're burning the American flag. They're screaming globalize the Intifada. They hate the Hindus. They hate the Christians. They hate the Jews. They hate all non-Muslims. And the refusal to condemn this, even from his own inner circle. I mean, he is promoting these inflammatory narratives about the Middle East, and it's bringing extremism and radicalism to our state, and we will not stand for it. And what is so significant about this rally is that it is an interfaith rally. We are going to be there with our Christian brothers and sisters, with our Muslim brothers and sisters. The Dominican Republicans are showing up. We have people showing up, all colors, all faiths, all backgrounds. And I hope every single person listening today is going to show up. And it's going to be sustained. It's not just a one-off and go home, because Mamdani needs to know, and the world needs to know, that we're just not going to sit here and watch our great state be taken over and our amazing city of New York be taken over by these radicals.
That's what's going on. There's no other way to put this. And there is some other stuff going on with the Department of Justice. You know, Harmeet Dillon is on this show quite a bit, and she really can't stand Mamdani. She really can't. She's just looking for the little hole, like a running back in the NFL broke when you open up that hole just enough for him to burst through the line of scrimmage and get himself a 20, 50-yard run. That's what Harmeet is looking for with Mamdani. She really believes he's going to slip up one of these days, and they're going to have some really good case against him. So this rally you're doing on Tuesday, yes, it may be taking place in New York City, but the issues with Mamdani seem to go all the way to Washington, D.C. You know that.
Yes, and our electeds need to see that they have public support. Mamdani needs to be removed from office. He is not fit to serve. And I have absolute confidence in the Assistant Attorney General that not only is she doing what she needs to do with Mamdani, but I know that they're looking in to the organizers and they're looking into these rebel rousers, pro-terror mobsters that have taken over our streets, who are committing assaults and who are trespassing and committing property destruction and harassing people on their way to synagogues and so forth. And they are enforcing the law, and it just could not come any sooner, because that is what we need, the rule of law. When we do not enforce the law and when we allow this type of madness to take over, it's going to be bad for all New Yorkers. And people are waking up and they can see that. They don't want New York to turn into London. They don't want New York to turn into Belgium. That's not what we're about in this country. We respect minority rights. We respect civil rights. What we don't respect is hatred and the violation of other people's civil rights. This is not acceptable. This is not normal, right? So we're seeing this slow boil, and we're all just getting used to it. Oh, this is the new normal. Every time Jews gather at a synagogue, we should expect to have these pro-terror mobs. Absolutely not. And so that's why we are showing up, and that's why every single person listening needs to show up outside of Gracie Mansion this Tuesday, May 26th at 7 p.m. and let your voice be heard. Enough is enough. No to Mamdani. Get Mamdani out of office now.
Are you not shocked, Brooke Goldstein, when you see people in this city, in the media, a lot of them obviously with ridiculous publications like street blogs or, City and State, but folks on New York One, which is basically a communist channel coming on New York City. But when you see these people trying to convince us that Mamdani is doing a good job, I do this for a living, 4 hours a day, and I break this stuff down like nobody else does, okay? Like nobody else does. And I can't find one thing, not one thing, childcare, I guess, that this guy's done well. He boasted about the budget last week, and the truth is he's taking $8 billion from Kathy Hochul. That's state money. We pay taxes on that. So he screwed us with the budget. He's anti-cop. He's anti-safety, right? Law and order. I mean, people in the streets are at risk every single day. You don't have to get to anti-Semitism. That's way down the list. There's 10 other things that this guy does terrible for this city. How are these people convinced that this guy is doing a good job? Based on what?
But that's what I'm saying. That is why it is so important for the numbers to show up. They need to see that the public is not buying this BS narrative. That's why just last week we had over 400 people show up outside the New York Times after they published their ridiculous blood libel claiming that Israelis are training dogs to rape Palestinian children, Palestinian prisoners. That is just insane. Now they're publishing that they're using zucchinis. It's not even, physiologically possible. But the New York Times needs to know, the other publications need to know that the public is not buying this. And so it's one thing for us to, obviously listen to the radio and like and share everybody's Instagram posts and send each other emails and text messages how bad everything is. But there's no comparison to physically showing up in the numbers that we're going to get outside of Gracie Mansion to make the point. And I think once people see that there is real public groundswell of pressure and support to remove Mamdani, this is how we're going to see a change in the narrative about how it's covered. We're going to become the story now.
I have one more for you. Are you getting, in terms of feedback and people that are set to show up on Tuesday, including me, are you getting a bunch of civilians, or are there also some political people, some power people here in New York City that are willing to join?
Well, the lineup is now just being set, so I really encourage everybody to follow us on End Jew Hatred on our Instagram page, and we're going to be very shortly announcing the list of confirmed speakers. And what I will tell you is that every day there's at least 4 or 5 people who are calling us and saying, I want to show up, I want to speak. We have a lot of influencers coming. We're expecting over, I think now it's about 500 or 600 people who have RSVP to say that they're going to come. So this is going to be huge, Sid, and of course we have you. And we're very grateful that you're also going to show up as well.
Well, I'm grateful that you reached out to me, so thank you for doing that. Like I said, I don't do a lot of these, but I really believe you've hit on something here, Brooke, coming from a different angle than the bullhorn in the street because, you know, even though we're right, people tend to get a little tired. So I like what you're doing on Tuesday. One more time, Brooke, for folks that want more information, what's the best way to find it?
So go to End Jew Hatred, which is our Instagram page. It's going to be on May 26th outside of Gracie Mansion at 7 p.m. All you got to do is show up and be there.
Brooke Goldstein, great job as always. Nice to catch up with you. I'll see you Tuesday night.
Thank you so much.
All right, sweetheart. Brooke Goldstein right there, big-time attorney, lawfare. And, again, Harmie Dillon, every day she watches what's going on in this city. You don't know who she is. She happens to lead the DOJ's Civil Rights Department. So she worked hand in hand with Pam Bondi. Now she's working hand in hand with Todd Blanche. But her and Leo Terrell and others are out there every day. And listen, it's not just for the Jews. It's for black people. It's, you know, now we had this tragedy in San Diego yesterday. So Mamdani can yell and scream all day today about how the world hates the Muslims. And the world does. You know, there's a lot of Muslims that are murdered all over the world. That's true. Not in this country, though. No, there is no big problem with Islamophobia and Muslim hatred in this country. What happened yesterday was a tragedy in San Diego. But that is, I don't remember the last time a Muslim, a Persian person was killed. And they're looking for any reason to put it on the same line as anti-Semitism. They want Islamophobia to be right there with anti-Semitism because they hate the Jews and they're sick and tired of hearing about Jews being victims, even though the numbers are not even close. One stands at about 4% and one stands at about 60%. That doesn't lessen the tragedy of what happened in San Diego yesterday. I'm just giving you the facts. These are the facts. Anyway, 7 p.m. Tuesday night outside of Gracie Mansion. Be there. 9 o'clock hour, we got a couple of big stars. These are really big stars. Again, happens to be the voice of the NBA Finals. And your New York Knicks, with the Knicks and Cavs getting set to take on each other in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Later on tonight at Madison Square Garden, the Hall of Fame voice of the Knicks, Mike Breen, will be here at about 9:35. And if you like the music, Five for Fighting, which I do, John Ondrasik makes his debut on this program. It's a big get.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm a huge fan, and I'm glad he's here. Big pro-Trump guy, pro-Israel, and a tremendous talent. John, great to have you on Sid and Friends in the morning here in New York, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, Sid. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. And I'm excited to be a summer tour. I like Edward McCain also. Like him a lot. So that's quite a tour you guys are going on, yes?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a blast. You know, it's still fun to get back in the bus with the boys and, you know, go to a adult rock star summer camp. And it's going to be a blast.
You know, I was looking, too, at some of the members of your band. I mean, you got guys like Randy Cook. He's performed with Mick Jagger, Ringo Starr, Dave Stewart, Sean Hurley with John Mayer, Ringo Starr, Alanis Morissette, Peter Thorne with Chris Cornell. Yesterday was actually the 9-year anniversary of Chris's death, unfortunately. Melissa Etheridge and Don Henley. So it's quite a very accomplished list of musicians that follow you around the country, John.
You know, they are all stars, no doubt about it, but they're equally wonderful people, and I'm so blessed to play with them. Also, you know, I do string quartet tours during the fall, and I have just amazing Broadway players with me, you know, all kind of world-class string players. So one of the nice things about these permutations of Five for Fighting is I truly get to play with some of the best musicians in the world, and as I said, just wonderful people.
You also toured with Post Malone a couple of years ago, right, when he was red hot?
A little bit, yeah. We've done a few shows there, but yeah, I've been blessed to, you know, play with some of the greats ever, and of course the highlight of my life, most significant thing was the concert for New York after 9/11, and I was sharing the stage with the true icons of the world, and that's certainly a moment I'll never forget.
John, could you believe, now that you brought that up, it's a very sore spot for me. I was on the air that morning, so I'm a big New York Giants football fan. And the Giants had gone to the Super Bowl the year before, and we got killed by the Baltimore Ravens. We've only lost one Super Bowl. We're 4-1. Eli Manning 2-0. Bill Sims 1-0. Jeff Hostetler 1-0. But Kerry Collins got blown out by Baltimore. But the league rewarded the Giants with the opening Monday night game the next season. So Monday night, September the 10th, 2001, the Giants went to Denver. They got blown out by Brian Griese and the Broncos. And they're coming back the next morning, and their late head coach, who was a very close friend of mine, Jim Fossil, said to me that when they taxied and their plane pulled up to Newark Airport very early Tuesday morning, that the flight that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, was making their way towards the runway. How chilling is that?
Wow. Still 25 years later, it gives me chills to think about that. And, wow, yeah. Again, I think for many of us, 9/11 almost seems like yesterday. I actually wrote a song called Tuesday. 9/11 occurred on a Tuesday, as you just mentioned, kind of talking about not forgetting the lessons of 9/11 years ago. And unfortunately, I think in many ways we have. But thinking back to those heroes, and I might be doing something this July 4th for America 250 to recognize some of those firefighters who ran into those buildings, which we should think about every day.
Oh my God, absolutely. Would you be doing something because there's two venues that day. There's something here in New York by the Hudson, and then Trump's putting on something big in D.C. He may not, but both. I don't know. But which spot do you see yourself in, New York or D.C.?
It hasn't been confirmed yet, but if it happens, it will be in New York, and it will be something very special. And I know we're going to talk about it. Alon Noel, who I played Superman with not too long ago, may be joining me for that, Sid. And boy,
huge.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh, huge.
That be amazing?
I actually played your rendition of your great song Superman with Alon yesterday, and Lewis loved it too. My guy, he's a music genius. He thought it was fantastic. So that'll be amazing. You said that we seem to forget here in New York. Maybe not. No, we did. And I'll give you the one indication. And I know there was a tragedy in San Diego yesterday, and we are actually mourning today, no question about it, for those innocent Muslim people that were murdered in San Diego yesterday. But one thing has nothing to do with the other. The fact that this city voted in Mamdani as our mayor says, John Ondrasik, we forgot.
I think it's as simple as that. No, sometimes facts are facts, and it breaks my heart. I certainly love New York. I love New Yorkers. I love all of you, and I have a lot of history there. And my daughter went to NYU, and to see someone like Mamdani 25 years later after the towers came down, elected, whose wife loves to like posts about the atrocities of October 7th. You never would have believed it. You never would have believed it. But you know what? Here we are, and we still have to fight the good fight. I believe New York will come back and turn around. We're seeing some signs in Los Angeles. Maybe even, we who've lost our mind in California might be having some common sense. But you got to fight the good fight, and I know you do that every day, and I'm grateful for that.
Thank you. I know you do, too, in your music realm, and like you said, I do it here. So you're an L.A. guy. I've been, ordinarily I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care about what's going on in another city, another state, but obviously California, huge, just like New York, and you got a DSA candidate running for mayor, very similar to Mamdani. I think she's probably in third right now behind the incumbent Karen Bass. And the guy that I love, Spencer Pratt. You got that big governor race. I'm all about Steve Hilton. You guys got to win those elections. Look, we got to make sure that Bruce Blakeman beats Kathy Hochul, governor in this state, John, and hopefully somebody that can win in 2029 beats Mamdani. But right now, your state's opportunity is right now. They got to vote in Spencer Pratt and Steve Hilton or kiss California goodbye.
It breaks my heart again for California, my home state, and to see how it's kind of crashed and burned. And we have a family business out there, and again, it's most of my friends have left. You see people just leaving, deserting. Los Angeles, similar to New York in many respects. And yeah, Spencer is doing an amazing job. Has a tough hill to overcome. He's 4-1 Democrats. But I do think we're seeing signs across the country. You even see in Deep Blue Oregon, you have a candidate for governor that's kind of neck and neck. And so, again, I think some of these states, even Democrats are coming to their senses. And I think just having the fire yesterday in California, in near my house, actually, in Thousand Oaks, that's reminding people of the catastrophe that Karen Bass has been for Los Angeles. So, again, is it enough to have Democrats kind of, again, find their senses? I don't know, but you see the trends moving in the right direction, and I believe New York also will come to its senses. But again, you're right. If you would have told me, 5 years ago, somebody who basically spouts river to the sea and will become the mayor of New York, I wouldn't have believed it. But here we are, and like anything, as Americans, we fight for freedom and humanity. And you're right. Our hearts break for the innocents who lost their lives yesterday in San Diego, because we're happy to say that. Unfortunately, when Jews are massacred or murdered across the country, you hear very little from the left. Often they still blame Israel for that. So that's the world we live in. We're fighting for civilization. This is the fight for civilization. And, I'll continue to do that. You'll continue to do that. And we will win because right is on our side.
I think you're right. And, John, we mentioned the Elon version of Superman you guys did. I remember Bono and U2, they changed the lyrics for one of my favorite songs of all time, Pride. I think they were performing in Vegas. It may have been in the Sphere. And he, changed because Pride in the Name of Love, that song's about the Martin Luther King assassination. You know that.
Yeah.
But he changed the words to the October 7th instead of the April assassination. And you did that with Superman with Elon. Again, we played it yesterday. Where does this love for Israel, which is beautiful, and I'm right with you, I'm going back to Israel, I'm back in 3 weeks. Where does all this come from for you?
I'm not Jewish. If
by the way, that's why I asked you that, because to be honest, John, while I appreciate my Jewish brethren, my brothers and sisters, I appreciate you more. Every time I hear a Christian or somebody who's not Jewish say, I'm not Jewish, but I love Israel, it gives me hope.
Well, again, to me, that has nothing to do with religion. If Hamas is not evil, nothing is. Again, this is the fight for civilization. Look, Israel is a democracy. It's this little speck in the Middle East, surrounded by enemies who want to destroy them. And why wouldn't you support Israel, who's literally the tip of the spear to fight against this kind of leftist, Marxist worldview that is indoctrinating our children, taking over our universities, flooding the media, existing in Congress. So why wouldn't you stand with Israel? That's to me, it's clear. There's no moral kind of relativity here. If it's either good or evil, and frankly, Sid, I choose the good, and Israel's the good, and it has nothing to do with religion.
God bless you. You have a cool story about one of these songs. I remember Bono, going back to YouTube for a second, saying that I think he was in a restaurant or a diner when he wrote "Angel of Harlem." And he wrote it on a napkin, And even Lee Greenwood wrote that great song, like in the back of a truck or something. You'd be surprised some of the songs that are the favorites of all time, where they were actually penned and where the artist was. So I don't care if it's The Riddle or 100 Years or World or Easy Tonight or Superman or Chances. You have a cool story about where you penned one of these songs?
Yeah. Superman was a gift. I wrote it kind of from beginning to end in 45 minutes. The joke is I've been looking for that 45 minutes ever since, but that's another story. But yeah, I was sitting there just writing song after song, and I couldn't write Superman today. I've learned that, it's relatively been pretty easy to be me in my life and for most of us. But, as a kid, struggling against the music business, wanting to be heard, sitting down and writing that song. And when I wrote it, I'm like, well, I'm a rocker, I've listened to Zeppelin, AC/DC, Queen, and this is this little ballad, this is not for me. I'll give it to James Taylor or something like that. And my producer Greg Wattenberg, a great New Yorker, said, "Dude, you got to put that little song on your record." We even called it a little song, and here we are, 25 years later, and Superman is now, has a new life as a song for the hostages and for Alone, and to sit down with Alone after, he spent 700 days in a Gaza tunnel and sit with him and play and sing that song was truly a spiritual moment. I kept finding myself touching him to make sure he was real. And again, that experience, I think, is a victory for all of us who've stood for the hostages, all of us who stood for Israel and America and freedom and everything we're talking about. There's been so much vitriol and lies thrown against Israel through the Free Palestine con job. That moment, I think, gave so much of us, including me, strength to know we're on the right side, and Alone will continue, to kind of be a shining light for all of us. And at the same time, Sid, we have to recognize the hostages and the families whose loved ones did not come home. The Goldbergs, the Bebos family. So our hearts are certainly with them as well.
Yeah. By the way, the Bebos family was abducted by Palestinians, not Hamas, as we continue to hear what great people they are. That nonsense. For killing all the Palestinians. Well, maybe Hamas shouldn't set up in hospitals and nursery schools and all the places where Palestinians are going to die. They're killing them, not us. You mentioned the song with Alon. I got to say this, too. It's a great story, obviously, that he was a hostage, and what you did was beautiful, quite frankly, John Ondrasik. But above and beyond that, he's good. Like, he's really good in the song.
He's better than me. Much better piano player than I'll ever be. The kid's a wizard, and actually, when he was hostage, he said, he was alone most of the time, which he actually liked because he got more food. But to kind of keep himself sane, he would kind of play the piano like on his body and play songs on himself. And when he got home, I think sitting at the piano again was a great healing tool for him. Just reminds us how music could be so healing, just like, frankly, after 9/11. So he is an incredibly strong guy. He said, when I said to him, what's the thing you miss the most? He said, a chocolate shake with Baileys. And I ran down to the bartender and I said, if you don't have a chocolate shake with Baileys, I'm going to come back there and make one right now. And so we got him one. And to watch him drink that with his girlfriend again and his mom sitting there, God is good, buddy.
I got to tell you, you are something else, man. A brilliant musician. Your music is great, and I'm telling you, I've been playing it for years and years on this show. This isn't brand new because we just started talking. But the work that you do, the song with allowing Alon to perform on Superman, on Twitter, out there every day defending our country, defending President Trump, defending Israel, and you're not a Jew. John Ondrasik, I couldn't love you any more than I do right now, pal. You really are terrific. I enjoyed this immensely. I only ask that you keep coming back, and I'm sure I'll see you at some of these events coming up this summer. You're a great American, my friend. Thank you so much.
Sid, you are the man. Keep leading the fight, and hey, go Knicks.
Go Knicks! Every part of this conversation was great. This guy, John Ondrasik, is amazing, right? Go Knicks in America, 9/11, the hostages. What a beautiful guy. And his music is really outstanding.
Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Sid and Friends in the morning on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
For the first time in 27 years since Patrick Ewing and the boys came up short against San Antonio, they had a little run there. 99, Van Gundy, 94, the Rockets. Riley have not gotten back since. And this team I shouldn't say that. They had Indiana. What am I talking about? But this team looks to be special. This team can actually win and move on to the NBA Finals. That's what Knick fans expect. They expect us to beat Cleveland and take on the winner of Oklahoma City and San Antonio. Here he is, dear friend and the best NBA voice ever, Mike Breen. Mike, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, Sid. Very special thanks to our man Lou Rufino for playing a little Jethro Tull in there.
He knows.
He never forgets.
he never does forget. That is attached to you like the Knicks. I mean, are you happy about that? How is that for you?
I'm a huge Tull fan. I'm boycotting the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame until they get them in there. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a great place, but they need to get Jethro Tull in there.
I agree with you. This is clearly anti-Semitism.
It's crazy how they're not in it. Absolutely crazy.
Well, why not? Well, I guess Ian Anderson is not very likable. I don't know. That's what Lou told me.
Oh, I didn't know that was the reason.
I don't know. I agree with you. They should be in the Hall of Fame. Let's get on that, okay? Noam Send a letter to somebody, will you? We want Jethro Tull in the Hall of Fame, okay?
I'll get on it right now.
Mike's in the Hall of Fame. Mike's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, of course, because he's the best, the absolute best. And we got this Eastern Conference Finals coming up. But yesterday, you probably weren't listening. You may have been traveling back from Detroit, where he did the Game 7 for the Pistons and the Cavs. But making his second appearance on Sid and Friends in the morning, late yesterday morning, Mike Breen was the 27-year-old. How about that? 27-year-old Wyatt Imus.
It's crazy,
right?
Crazy to think about that.
Yeah.
I heard the first time you had him on, and he's such an impressive young man. It just to think that the I-Man now has a 27-year-old. God rest his soul, but that's wild. But very impressive young man, don't you think?
Oh, I love him. He is a very impressive young man, very respectful, very nice. Had a long conversation with Deirdre yesterday about Wyatt. And, look, we go back a long way. You were part of that show even before me. But like you said, Wyatt is now 27 years old, and your best buddy, really your best buddy, and I loved him dearly, but he's got 2 grandchildren now, Bernard McGurk. So when you think back to all those great years together, Mike, and all the fine people we met, and now we're talking about kids and grandkids, and our friends have left us.
Yeah, it goes by very quickly. I think of Bernard quite a bit. Thankfully, there's still some videos that I pop on every once in a while, and it makes me laugh every single time. A special, special guy.
Wyatt Imus, he is and was a very, very special guy, and I miss him dearly, and so does our audience. Well, wouldn't you know it that Wyatt Imus is listening right now and just texted me. He said, Mike Breen is the man. I've been texting with him for a while now. A little bit, he said. So Wyatt is listening right now, Mike. How about that?
Yeah, no, I owe him a phone call. We've been texting back and forth, but I want to catch up with him because I've been so impressed with his appearances. It was very nice of you to have him on.
Oh, why not? I love the kid. He's great. And he's a big Knick fan. His father, we never really knew, Mike, did we, what team Imus was rooting for? I guess it depends on who won the night before, right?
By the way, I've noticed your ability to do the show and text at the same time is very impressive.
Yeah, no one else can do that. Nobody in the whole industry can do that except for Stan Van Gundy.
I don't know if that's the case, but you have that ability to be able to talk and text at the same time.
So you've never done that sitting at the Garden during a Knick game? You've never called a play on the court and texted Rowe at the same time? That never happened?
No. What now? During timeouts, I might.
Right.
I'm not good enough to do both at the same time.
I think you are good enough. I think you're great. So look at this series. What a wacky series between Detroit and Cleveland, right? The home team, they held serve. Detroit won the first 2 at home. Cleveland went home. They won the next 2. And then the road team won every game after that, and they won by big numbers. The home team wasn't even competitive. I don't remember a series like that.
Yeah, it was the last 2 games were 2 of the strangest games because you had the Cavs a chance to clinch on their home court in Game 6, and they played probably their worst game of the playoffs. Then you have Detroit after that inspiring dominant win in Game 6 to force a Game 7 at home, and that's one of the worst Game 7 home performances I've ever seen, and it was shocking because they were a team that was so good defensively. They could still win even if they shot poorly, but their defense let them down. And that was shocking because they were as good a defensive team as any team really in the league all year.
What's interesting is when the Cavs got Harden, and I don't follow it as closely as I used to, obviously, because I spent a lot of time talking about, Israel, Iran, President Trump, but I follow it pretty closely. And I know that Jim Harden is a Hall of Fame basketball player. Now, look, he has had his rough goes during the playoffs and hasn't played well a lot. But I always say this, Mike. Give me that Hall of Fame guy. Let me take my chances. People are like, oh, Cleveland's done. He's a cancer. He never shows up in a big game. Give me that Hall of Fame guy. I'll take my chances. And it looks like Jim Harden has paid off.
Well, first off, you must know him well because you're the only person I know that refers to him as Jim Harden.
That's correct. No, I actually texted him. Now, you're laughing because you think I'm kidding.
Texting you now, too?
Yes. I get texts from BB, Trump, and Jim Harden.
No, you're right. It's going to be a long, tough series. The Cavs are really good. They went through, obviously, changes midseason. They they made this huge trade, and they got a couple of key players who really helped them. And Harden, I keep saying this, continuity for a roster is so important for success. So it takes a while sometimes, especially when you have a guy like James Harden, who has been ball dominant in his career, not as much as he used to be, but it takes a while to get comfortable and get in rhythm when that's now your point guard. And they did well in the regular season. They've had their ups and downs in the playoffs, but they're a dangerous team. I mean, he's had some brilliant playoff games in his career. He's had some really rough ones too, but he's capable of throwing up 30 easily. And he has torched the Knicks in all the games he's played against them all regular season. He's never played the Knicks in the playoffs. So he could be a problem. And then you add his backcourt mate in Donovan Mitchell, who's one of the great playoff scorers of all time. You throw in Mobley and Jared Allen. Those are two terrific big men. It's going to be a really, really hard series.
I agree with you. But look what the Knicks did, right? They're down 2-1 to the Hawks. And I remember I had Stephen A. Smith on that morning when they the morning after they fell behind 2-1. And I said, Steve, the happiest guy in the world is right now. And he said, who would that be, Sid? I said, Tom Thibodeau. Right? I mean, they got rid of this guy. He was 2 games away from the NBA Finals, seemingly doing a very, very good job. They get rid of him, and now Mike Brown is losing in the first round to the Atlanta Hawks. By the way, the Knicks have not lost a game since. They've won 7 consecutive games, most of them in incredibly dominant fashion. He's going 9 deep, which Tom Thibodeau could never do. So clearly the change to Mike Brown, at least so far, seems to be helping the Knicks in these playoffs.
Yeah, Mike Brown's done an exceptional job. Tom Thibodeau did an exceptional job. It was a risky move. But what Mike Brown, he brings some different things to the table. And I've been so impressed with 2 things. Number one, how he didn't panic after it was 2-1. And as you know, here in New York, it's Armageddon when the Knicks are on the verge of maybe getting eliminated. Right. But he didn't panic, and he made some adjustments. And he's very open to suggestions from his assistant coaches, from the players on his roster. And he's not afraid to admit, you know what, this idea worked. It wasn't my idea. It was my assistant's. Or as the players came and told me they wanted to do this. And that tells you something about it, that he knows he doesn't have all the answers. He knows he's still learning about the team. And he's done a great job managing it. And right now they're playing as well as anybody in the playoffs. This 7-game stretch, Sid, the point differential they've had in their first 10 games of the playoffs is the largest in NBA history. They're not just beating teams, they're dominating teams. And I know Philly had some problems, and Atlanta, you wouldn't call an elite team a really good team, but the Knicks have played some beautiful team basketball. Even Clyde has mentioned it reminds him a little bit of his team in terms of how they're sharing the ball and playing together defensively.
Well, that's a big statement coming from Clyde, who won 2 championships. That's the last time we won, 69 and 73. And they did share the ball well. They had 8-9 guys who went out there and contributed, like this team is doing right now. But you got to look at the superstars still, right? You talked about Harden and Mitchell, and we've got 2 superstars. I don't want to discount what Josh Hart means to the team and some of these other guys, but Brunson and specifically Towns. This is a new Towns. And this does go to the Brown-Thibodeau difference because, let's face it, as far as we know, he didn't really like Thibodeau, Towns. There seems to be a different Carl Anthony in these playoffs. And that 1-2 punch for the Knicks, I think you got to put him right there at the very top all-time 1-2 combos for the Knicks.
Well, what Towns is doing is extraordinary. He's changed his game. Like in the game against Atlanta, the clinching game against Atlanta, I think he took 4 shots. He's not even averaging 10 shots per game. And this is a guy who's known for his scoring. What he's done, he's filled the role as a playmaker just beautifully. He's playing probably the best consistent defense he's ever played. But more importantly, he's showing the way of sacrifice. Look, I'm sacrificing shots. I don't care if I score. I like distributing. I just want to see us win. He's the only guy that has played in the last 3 Western Conference Finals. So he's been close to the finals, but hasn't been there. He just wants to win. And what he's showing is he's backing that up by playing that way in such an unselfish manner.
I think Knick fans, you said it, the Cavs are going to be tough. They're a real good team with a couple of Hall of Famers and Mitchell and Harden. But I think Knick fans will be really somewhere between angry and disappointed if this team doesn't win this series. Despite how good Cleveland is, I really believe Knick fans, and they may be a little too cocky, just expect to win. But they got to win 4 games first. I'll tell you, I go back to 94. Mike, were you doing the Knicks back in 1994?
Yeah, I was doing radio.
You were doing radio. So let's go back to the finals. The Knicks are taking on the Rockets, okay? And all these people are inside Madison Square Garden watching this series. And then all of a sudden, nobody's sitting in their seats. They're all by the concession stands watching the TVs because there's a white Ford Bronco chase with O.J. Simpson and A.C. Cowlings. And isn't it ironic that yesterday, as the Knicks get set to start the Eastern Conference Finals, that Mark Furman, who became kind of the star of that O.J. trial, he died yesterday, bringing back memories of 1994, right?
Yeah. I saw the news about Mark Furman, and I remember that game so well. It's Game 5. I'm sitting doing radio in the booth, and we had a TV monitor. And I'm a young broadcaster. That was the biggest game I've ever broadcast, and I'm losing my focus because I'm watching the Bronco because NBC had a split screen. They had the Bronco and they had the game. And I remember saying to my statistician, Harry Robinson, hey, Harry, you got to turn the TV off. I can't concentrate. And he went to turn the TV off, and that old broadcast location was in the middle of the stands. It was about 10 rows up. And all the fans around us, who we knew from being around all year, they're screaming at me, no, you can't turn the TV off. They wouldn't let me turn the TV off. Yeah. So here it is. It's the biggest game I've ever broadcast in my career. And I couldn't concentrate because of the compelling thing that was on the television with the white Bronco.
Hilarious. Final 30 seconds. Will Jim Dolan finally get some credit in this city for this Knick team? Or, I don't know, people are so angry about Isaiah and Phil Jackson and Larry Brown and all that.
Well, what he did by bringing in Leon Rose, and that was it's kind of an out-of-the-box thinking because Leon Rose had never worked in a front office, but had been a player agent and a really successful one. So he took a chance on Leon Rose, and what Leon Rose has done has been extraordinary. When he took over the team, I think they were like 21-45. He started in March. And all of a sudden, he hires Thibodeau. Julius Randle became a good player. And then one of the great free agent signings in NBA history is Jalen Brunson being signed. And he's added to those pieces. And he's built it the right way. He's been very pragmatic. Didn't want to hit home runs. He just took his time, slowly built. And now this is a team that has a shot to win a championship. And this comes after many, many dark years where they were really bad. So Jim Dolan's hiring of Leon Rose was the first major step in what's turned the whole team around.
Exactly. We're giving Jim Dolan credit here. Mike Breen just did. Mike, not only are you the best basketball announcer ever, but you're just the sweetest guy. You've been great to me all these years. From the day I first met you, which you may have forgotten, but Mark Chernoff said, go, you'll meet Imus or Rockefeller Center. He's doing his radiothon. And I sat in the bullpen with you and Mike Francesa. And I said to you, Mike, I'm about to meet Imus for the first time. What is your advice? And you said, it was one word, run. You're beautiful. I can't love you more than I do. You're a great, great friend. I know you don't do this at all, radio, so thank you so much for doing this for me, Mike Breen. Thank you. Enjoy the games. You're great.
So proud of you, Sid. Thanks, bud.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. The great Mike Breen, I love him so much. We talk quite a bit. He'll send me texts every now and then, and I like this. Stop doing that, and I love all of it. Mike Breen, the Knicks and Cavaliers, Game 1 later on tonight. Nobody better.
He's amazing.
And that's him. Like, there's nothing phony about Mike. It's not made up. It's authentic. He's just a really
good person.
Yes.
Yeah, just fun to be around.
Yes.
And smart, and he's great.
Funny.
Doing the best guy.
God,
hilarious.
He is funny. Oh, my God. Doing sports on Imus, Bill from White Plains, all that great stuff. Mike Breen, we love you. And Wyatt sends his regards. I think we're done for today. That's it, Lewis.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?